you're not angry yet, act angry.
As long as they close it before juvenile's exam.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously as soon as possible as well, so you can
Yes,
start it.
yeah.
So we'll give the others a few more minutes and then we'll begin. They'll just have to jump in the boat. Did anybody get around to reading chapter 6?
Okay.
Or is it 7?
7.
No, it's unit 6, sorry. We did 5 last time. So we're doing unit 6 today.
This book is in no order.
No, it's not. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, things in a strange order.
Yeah, I read it.
Yeah, like this. Number 6 is on the page before at the bottom somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I read it.
Unit 5, you say?
We did 5 last week.
5.
Last time, sorry. So we're doing 6 today. Duties and powers of trustees. What was 5 about again? Anybody remembers?
The appointment of.
Yeah, the appointment of trustees. How do we go about appointing trustees, who they need to be, and all that stuff. So today, now that they're appointed, we will talk about their duties and powers. Because if you read Unit 6, you'll discover they have quite a bit of powers that they can use and or abuse. Okay. While we wait for our colleagues, let me just introduce you to 3 common misconceptions in choosing a trustee. This is not in your text, but it's important nevertheless to know.
You said misuse?
3 common misconceptions, yes, when choosing a trustee. Misconception number 1. If I choose a professional trustee, my family will lose control. Remember that thought? Will lose control. It's almost like yourself. If you're in charge of a family as a parent, for example, and you're thinking, you know what, when I die, everything's going to go to hell. Sometimes it does. Or if I assign my responsibilities in the event of my death to somebody, like an individual trustee or somebody I trust, they might not necessarily carry things out the way I would like it to be done. Alright, so sometimes when people are looking at choosing a trustee, they're feeling, well, if we get a trustee, the family will lose control, the trustee will have what? All control. They get to make all decisions, and family members just sit back and wait for benefits. Okay? That may or may not be true. It is a misconception because a trustee does not mean that you will lose control. And the key to not losing control as a family is for the settlor, remember that person? To try to establish the letter of comfort. What's another name for letter of comfort? For the settlor?
Letter of Bishop.
Yeah, letter of wishes. Why do you think I call it a letter of comfort as well? Because that's all it is. It doesn't give any it gives a mandate to the trustee, but the trustee doesn't necessarily have to follow it. But we hope that when we die, that our trustee, whoever that will be, will do that. And if that works reasonably well, then the family will not lose control because the trust assets will be administered exactly the way the family theoretically wanted it to happen. So that's a misconception. Doesn't mean there won't be some loss of control, but it doesn't mean that you will lose total control. Okay? That's the first thing. Misconception number 2. Trustees, especially professional ones, are expensive. Ever heard that? A lot of people, especially individuals, do not seek out professional trustees, especially because they feel they can't afford it. That may be true in some cases, but not necessarily. You have to shop around and find out who's available. Okay. Remember, you can choose an individual as your trustee. When I die, I would like my husband to be the trustee. People don't like to leave husbands as trustee. How come? How come ladies don't like to? Guys always leave their wives as trustee. My wife is my trustee, even over their own children. But wives don't do that with husbands. How come? Is that a misconception too? No?
Yes, sir.
That's a fact?
Yeah.
A fact. She says, it is no misconception, it's a fact.
Things change, man. You know, no.
Guys change?
And they do whatever they want. You know.
Oh, chicks don't do that. Well, guys are more prone to do what you mean?
Yeah.
Than our females.
I've seen it.
Yeah. My. What a tragedy.
But isn't that true though? I mean, like in most cases.
Not in every case, but in too many cases, perhaps, yes.
Yeah.
Not in every case, but in too many cases still. Okay? Both sides do it. Men tend to seem to do it more than women. Okay? For some reason. So that individual trustee could be an issue. Then, of course, we have the professional trustee. Of course, the professional trustees are for those persons who would like to put in trust maybe anywhere from $500,000 up. Individual trustees, like from $10 maybe to $499,000, like that. Because remember, if you have a life insurance for $300,000, you could leave it in trust, correct? You don't have to be rich to have a trust, and you don't need to have a trust to leave something for someone. Right, so if you have a life insurance and you say, upon my death, my children will get anything, my husband's to get nothing, the bastard, then what you're doing is the insurance company becomes the what? Trustee for you. And they will distribute your assets according to how you tell them. So if you have 2 children, and you want each one to get 50%, okay, 50-50. That's what happens. Ma'am, are you going to leave anything for your husband? No. Husband goes in for life insurance, how do you want to leave all to my wife? See? It's a strange phenomenon.
Because she's gonna distribute it to the children, you know for sure she's gonna do what you would set her to
You
do.
don't know that for sure.
We come on, we could do it.
He feels that way more, so yeah, but he does not. Yeah.
You know for sure.
Both of you are right. That's what's
Yeah.
crazy. Both of you are right when it comes to the situation. It's a strange phenomenon. And I think instead of going with stereotype, perhaps you should just try to determine it based on the person you think you know. Whether it's male or female, husband or wife. Because some wives, you cannot leave 17 cents to. They'll just totally annihilate it.
Yep.
And others, you can leave 3 pennies and they'll make it look like $1 million.
That is true.
So you have to figure out who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Okay? So yeah, trustees could be expensive if it's a big time professional trustee, but not necessarily if you find an individual law firm or a small law firm that can be a trustee for you and that kind of stuff. Or even a bank, like Bank of the Bahamas, for example, or Commonwealth Bank, who might decide to do what? Some wealth management stuff. And part of the wealth management is to do what? Individual trusts for persons who don't need to have an expensive trustee, but who's still professional. Okay? So it's possible. All right? And then misconception number 3 about choosing a trustee. Where is that, number 3? The trustee will have a good relationship with everyone. Is that true? No. Will have a good relationship with everyone. As you do more and more trust administration, you will discover that that is not necessarily true. In some cases, relationships even break down with the set law. I wouldn't talk about beneficiaries along the way. Okay? So that is a common misconception. While everybody's smiling and shaking hands at the beginning, as time passes, yeah, things change, people change, crap happens. Yeah. But those are the 3 most common misconceptions. And they're just there, certainly not as an afterthought, but something to think about as you study and think about the issue of trusteeship. Okay? The more money you're putting into trust, the more those misconceptions become something to think about. Okay? Of course, when I say the more money, I don't want to discount. If you have $50,000 to leave in trust, it does, for regular working people, it takes a long time to save $50,000. If you ever get there in life sometime. Some of us do it with a lot of work. Others of us, sometimes we never get there. We get to 30, 25, 27, 50, whatever it is. But whatever it is we're able to accumulate is a big deal. So we have to treat it with the same kind of? Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Okay, so let's see what's going on with the duties and powers of the trustee. Okay, since Chantel was in here the last. Chantel, I'm picking on you first. Can you open up for us? Read that little notice as number 1, trustee's duties, as mentioned. You see that?
Yes. As mentioned previously, trustees are fiduciaries,
Yeah, who are they again?
one who acts on behalf of another.
Yes. Okay.
And as fiduciaries, trustees are in a position of trust and confidence in which they have a duty of loyalty to the beneficiaries of their respective trusts.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not going to bog you down with having to remember all the cases, but I would encourage you when there's a reference to a case, when you get a moment, open it up in Google, read the summary, the context, to say, does this case really support the reference? Just for information. Okay? Doesn't hurt. Okay? It kind of helps you to understand as well the bit that they're talking about. The key here, though, is we open up with the fact that the trustee has a fiduciary responsibility, and people are expected to trust them, and they're expected to be trustworthy. Any trustee that no longer is trustworthy, in your opinion, as a beneficiary, settler, or whomever, they must go. Because you cannot continue to have somebody that you do not trust with responsibility for your assets, whatever they might be. Okay? That's the key. All right? So therefore, one of the primary duties then is for the trustee to act in good faith. All right? And in the best interest. You see that? Right in the paragraph following of the trust. Whatever your program is as a trustee, whatever you believe, whatever your faith is, nobody cares. When you get that trust, you are expected to be the best that you can be in terms of managing that trust. Okay? Also, we are told that trustees should not put themselves in a position of what?
Conflict.
Yes. What is a conflict of interest? Let me just put that here. What is a conflict, as far as you know?
Something,
Generally.
a conflict,
Or give me an example if you can think of one.
like,
Between parties? Well, that's an interesting point you made, because conflict could sometimes be different from conflict of interest, even though sometimes they can be deemed to be the same. Subtle. If you let me ask you this. If you're in a conflict of interest situation, what kind of situation are you in?
you benefit, or you benefit.
Yeah, that you should not be benefiting from. So if you were the president, let's say you're a trustee, and as a trustee you're privy to certain information, you decide to use that information for your own personal benefit, then that means that you're in a conflict of interest situation. If you're a trustee of a company that is producing chicken, and then you open up your own chicken company and use information from here as a trustee to help you move forward and be profitable with your chicken company, then you are in a conflict of interest situation. And trustees must avoid that at all costs. It's just like if you work for a firm and you have inside information and you use that inside information to enrich yourself. Not only is that a conflict of interest, it's an illegal act in any securities environment. Okay? So if you are the vice president of a company or director and you know that the company is going to be merging with another company and therefore the price of the stock is going to go up, and so you buy stock suddenly because of that information, then you are acting in conflict of interest because you're using your inside information.
For your personal gain.
Yes.
It has to be for your personal gain.
Well, even if you tell somebody else and they benefit, you could still be charged.
Ask Martha Stewart.
Yes. Yeah, awesome. Hi, good morning. Come right in. Roll right in, grab a chair.
I was at door for 5 minutes.
Our door? Down here?
Yes.
And what happened?
Answer the door.
And when you came in, what did folks say?
Look up there smiling.
Oh, sorry.
Tell the other guy, he's not used to the back door. Where's the back door? I think
Over
he's
there
here.
somewhere. That's interesting. I thought it would change the government things. I'm just playing the
Ain't
devil's
nothing
advocate. I'm just playing the devil's advocate.
slowly-
Everybody's still the same?
Things slowly changing.
Things are slowly changing. Yeah, slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Hold on, eh?
When he talking, let's wait for the walk.
Yeah, I'm straight from the walk. Nobody's called me to serve on any boards yet. I don't know why. I must have to make myself visible or something.
They're getting there.
Okay.
They trying to clean up.
Yeah, clean up stuff. Sick. Clean up is a hard job too. That could take a year and a half. Or two. Depending on how much. Yeah. All right. So if you're a trustee, you politics. Actually, it was interesting that somebody in opposition raised a question last week when they were discussing the budget. They said, well, Mr. Speaker, why is the present government seeking to borrow additional money? Should they cut costs?
Yes.
And the question, like, which costs do you cut? Do you cut those people that were just hired? You know, get the hell out.
And then when you do that,
Then when you do that, you have a war.
They say victimization.
Yes. So what do you cut? Do you cut the older people who've been there? You people have been there long enough, get the hell out. It's not that simple. That's why
The people they bring back?
Yeah.
you have to be careful how you make decisions prior. Because fixing things is sometimes what? Harder than making a mess. Alright? Trust me. It'll take you a lifetime to build something and one day to destroy it. 1 minute even. That's the danger. It's my foot. So even if you're a great trustee, a great fiduciary, you don't have any conflict of interest issues, one little mistake can destroy your trusteeship. And the next thing you know, they are impeaching you. I mean, not say impeach. Well, they're trying to add Donald now. Alright. So those are the two key things right away as far as duties and powers of the trustee is concerned. Please, if you're a trustee of any kind, stay away from conflict of interest issues. If you have any fiduciary responsibility, stay away from conflict of interest. Of course, politicians and certain other people can't stay away. They seem driven. So this fiduciary thing is not easy. This trustee thing is not easy. It is easier said than done. Okay? By the way, do you guys ever attend the Dundas and whatever they have there? Oh.
You have someone around there now.
Yes, they do. Called whatever they call it. But when you get there, I think it's from the 7th to the 11th. It's really a satirical depiction of the the recent election situation. Well done by those guys and girls.
Is that by Rockville?
Yes.
Oh, okay, but I know where it is.
If you get a chance to go,
Yeah, my friend is in that.
Okay.
yeah. What part did she play? He played.
I don't know everyone. See,
Ah.
he's mad
What's
at
the
me
name of
right
that?
now.
So you need to go. I forgot the name, but
No, that's the name of it.
I think I can remember it.
yeah, by Ian. Another great play by Ian.
Honorable members.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, okay, okay.
Folks, if you have money to pay for something that you will enjoy, that was well done, you should go and see it. Okay? It was well done by those folks. Very different, very unique depiction of politics, not only in the Commonwealth, but also in the Caribbean. And by extension, if you have any imagination at all, of politics around the world. Because they all say they go to political hell and come back and do the same thing, no matter where they are. Strange phenomena. Alright. So please, wherever you see a reference to a case, look up the case. Don't bore yourself to death with reading the whole thing unless you feel lawyerish and froggy, knock yourself out. But if you don't have time for all that stuff, just read the gist of the case, the opening, the key aspect of the case, and the conclusions to see whether or not you will draw the same conclusion to which you referred to in the case. Right? Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna read again. Let me take my register first. See who's here. I know Chantel is here. Yes. Zephaniah, I don't know, you must be parting the Red Sea. Bible name. Sharika. Not there. Revis. Lisette.
Present.
Oh, Lisette just walked in. This is a pissed off 5 minutes. I don't blame you. I try to keep my pissed off.
It was not the 5 minutes wait that pissed me off, it's the response I got
When you got a not, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. Trust me, I understand completely. I've gotten into a stage now where I try not to get upset about stuff because it's easy for me to have a heart attack, they say, when you're over that number. I wouldn't even call that number. Look, I was just looking at it. I have a picture in my study with me when I was 16. Oh, that's sick. I had a big old afro like this. I'm like, that's me? What the hell happened? Yes. But that was a long time ago. I wouldn't tell you. But I could remember it like it was yesterday. That's what's crazy. Like at this age, I shouldn't remember anything like that.
Yeah, of course, why not?
I know you do. But, that's sick.
Don't feel like you
Huh?
See, they're done like I'm old. You're not old.
No. He is old.
People keep telling me that. But I keep saying, I'm not? That's sick. So how old do I have to be? 87. Okay, listen. I know it stinks. It's not just standing at the door, it's the bloody reception when you walk in. Like, get the hell and piss on you. That's the thing that really annoys you. Whether or not it's not, it's how you feel. Welcome to the 21st century. Okay, Felicia?
Police.
Felice. Yes. And Janet. Janelle, sorry, Janelle. I don't know why I keep putting a T on this L. Okay, Janelle, can you read the next paragraph for us? It does not matter.
It doesn't matter how honestly a trustee acted, or that he has invested considerable time or effort in the administration of a trust, if he is found to have acted in conflict of his duties to the beneficiary.
See that? No matter how good a trustee you are, the minute you're discovered, it's like if you were a good husband for 30 years,
That one,
yeah, and you flicking, you know, once, your dog eats your lunch.
you always is doing that.
Yes, mind you, that's not true. That's the first time. And you only did it because now your wife is 30 years old and she's stinky. Like she don't say morning no more. She don't cook no more. So you mad? And it's a
No, you're still doing it wrong. No excuse.
no excuse. Let me treat you like a dog. Just act like a dog and take it. You dog.
Dog, say.
No, I know. And this be the devil's advocate. I know what you mean. Don't do it. No matter how I treat you, just shut the hell up until I get better. Do people get better? Yeah, people get better. People change. People even change beneficiaries. From 50-50 to the children to 100% for the husband even. Well, it's been 79 years, I guess I could trust you now.
That first sentence, that clear, I mean, is that correct? Accurate, finished?
The sentence? That's interesting. You should say that. Why do you ask that question?
That's not a complete sentence, it has a thought, but I mean, it says it does not matter how honestly a trustee acted or that he has invested considerable time or effort in the administration of a trust.
Yes, comma.
If he is found to have acted in conflict of his duty to the beneficiaries of a trust.
Good morning.
Good morning. Come right in.
If he's found to act in-
Yeah, it's a bad sentence.
Now that's what terrible say, that's not,
But it really means no matter how good you are, if you,
I know what they're trying
yeah.
to say,
But it's a bad sentence,
Throughout
yes.
this book.
Yes.
Seeing a
All
lot
sorts of
of
it.
Yeah, I am not sure who edited it. I'm not even sure if it was edited. But yes. I didn't say anything about it because I wanted to see if somebody would pick it up as a matter of interest. And yes, there are a couple like
Yeah,
that.
I've seen it.
Okay.
I just overlook it.
Yeah, we kind of,
They
because you
don't
have
ask you
a
a question and examine it. Then not.
No, you can't be held liable for a badly constructed sentence. Absolutely. Okay. So no matter how good you are, if you're caught up in a conflict of interest, you can have some problems. However, there are somewhat. Who's reading? Sorry.
There may, however, be instances where the trust instrument expressly.
Sorry, what does expressly mean again, since you're now a little more experienced trustee students?
Written.
Written. Whenever you see the word express, it means written. Yes.
Provides that the fiduciary duty shall not apply in a specific circumstance.
Okay, so there's sometimes when you can be allowed a conflict of interest situation. Usually the best time to do that is to bring it forth to the front, let people know up front what the program is, see if the beneficiaries and settlers are happy. If they approve it, then it's okay. If they put in the trust instrument, then it's what? Okay. But don't become a trustee, a fiduciary, and then don't disclose anything, and then they discover that you're making what? Gazillions of dollars as a result of your trusteeship at their expense. That every time you invest trust assets, you invest your own money. That doesn't say that's directly illegal, but you have to be careful how you do that. Okay? Because it might be perceived as a conflict of interest. And sometimes, remember, perception is sometimes greater than reality. Some beneficiaries, for example, if they perceive that you are acting in a non-fiduciary manner, or they perceive that you're not being trustworthy, it may not be true. They only feel that way. They can start rumblings as a result of that alone. Perception is a strange thing. Right? It's like turning the corner and seeing your arms, your spouse's arms around somebody. What the hell? Man, you might just be somebody you just saw for a long time. Susan, what's going on? Try that. I'm telling you, no long time, you bastard. But it just, and so you have to be careful. Don't stab him to death, shoot somebody in it. You can't do that because it may not be anything that you think it is. So you end up just beating up or killing an innocent person. Go to the source. Yeah, go to the source. Find out the truth first. All right. So yes, stay away from conflict of interest issues. However, if the trust instruments allow for you to get involved in something that would normally be considered a conflict of interest, fine, it's not a problem. Okay? Just know that if you do all the great stuff of fiduciary and you discover to be in conflict, that beneficiaries and settlers will not be happy. And when they're not happy, especially beneficiaries, we already know what they are likely to consider. What are they likely to consider from the last session? A lawsuit. Worse than that? Terminate you as a trustee. Okay, good morning, good morning. Come right in. All right, so we keep that in mind as you move forward. Notice that little paragraph right under, slip that in. If a trustee is placed, by whom? Where his duty and interest conflict, then? Yeah, if the settler is aware of it, the settler agrees to it, the settler has no problem with it and so on, then we don't have an issue. A different matter arises.
But you have to discuss that with.
Of course. The whole idea is that the beneficiaries and settlers don't want any surprises from you.
Yeah.
Same thing applies if you sit on a board. If you sit on a board and you have any conflict of interest issues, you are required to what? Bring it to the board's attention up front. Not 6 months to a year later or never. Try to hide it. Because if they discover it,
One emailing.
tapes. It's funny, the senators were asking the president, do you have any tapes? Like, who uses the word tapes anymore? Isn't that a little old school, like tapes? What kind of tapes would that be, like
Yeah,
an
the
old?
Rome with
Yeah.
him and Trump or
Yeah, would we normally still say tapes in the 21st century? What would we normally say except other, like, in the 20th century we would say tapes. Because we had little cassette tapes, stuff like that. But what do we do now? Recordings maybe? Or what? Like my baby used to say when he was small, skiddies.
What?
Skiddies.
CDs?
Yeah.
Oh, CDs.
Look, when he was 3, all I tried to get him to say CDs, because he couldn't get the. Son, say it slowly. CDs. Skiddies. Yeah. All right. So the point is, if the settler's happy, then as a trustee, perhaps your conflict of interest issue potentially is not an issue. Okay? Why do we make such a big deal on it on page 1? Because it can destroy the entire relationship between trustee and settler and beneficiaries. Okay? So it is a big deal. And because people are always looking at getting tied up in conflict of interest issues for some reason. Why? Why are we doing that?
They're motivated by greed.
Yeah, greed. Well, first of all, money, and then we can't get enough money. Once we get some, we just have enough.
Need more.
Yeah, like we never say, I have enough money. Is there ever enough money? No. So we go from just needing money, like I need money dead bad. Somebody give me 10,000, I straight. Soon as you get 10,000, nah, listen to that. Nah, this 10,000, this ain't no money, man. So you go from money to greed. Anybody knows the definition of greed?
Wanting
Maybe.
more. That's my definition.
Wanting more is okay, but what happens when you start approaching greed?
It's desirable.
Yeah, when you basically have what you need, but you have all you need. It's oh, hell no. Now I want more. All right. Notice, in addition to the conflict of interest fiduciary issues, I'm at the bottom of the page. Trustees have some other duties. Quite a bit of them, by the way. Okay. If this doesn't show up in the test, I'd be surprised. Whoever's writing the test should raise this. If I was writing the test, I would. Because these duties are absolutely as important as the conflict of interest issues. Duty number 1 is,
Administer the trust in accordance.
administer the trust in accordance with the trust instrument or agreement. Not how you feel, not what somebody told you, not what you dreamt, not what your best buddy suggested. You are to administer the trust in accordance with the trust instrument or agreement. Once you do that, you will be safe from the beneficiaries, safe from the dead or living settlor, and certainly safe from the law. If you don't do that, well, some of the cases that you have read or will read will show you what happens when you don't follow the trust instrument. All right, duty number 2.
You know, beneficiaries fairly and hush.
Why should we have to say that? Shouldn't that be automatic?
It should be.
So why do you think we have to write it as a duty?
They can know that's what they need to do.
Yeah, because human nature, just how we're greedy, we are also partial, aren't we?
Yeah,
We like who we like,
yeah.
and we flicking it, hate who we hate. For whatever reason.
Yeah.
I love everybody. No, people, no. And that happens with trustees. Trustees are supposed to be impartial. But they do have their favorite beneficiaries. Did you know that? In the real world, by the way.
Why would they do?
Why would they? Well, yes. Who said that? Yes. Some beneficiaries you hardly hear from. You only hear from them when they need their money or when they have a concern or query. Other beneficiaries you hear from what? More often. Hi, Frank. I'm just had to say hello. Yeah. Give skin.
That's why I said, why we get them. I get you.
So they start establishing different types of relationships with the trustee other than what the other ones have. Especially the trustee has the ability to act in his discretion. That even makes it more interesting. So now some trustees have their favorite beneficiaries for some reason. And those that are not so favorite. And then for some reason, those that they hate.
Those would like to give little tips.
Yeah. Yes, there are some beneficiaries when they get their $100,000 drawdown that year, based on the trust agreement or discretion, they leave an envelope for the trustee with $10,000. Who are you gonna like more? The one who left you the envelope, or the flicking stingy one who doesn't leave anything? The one who leaves nothing, are they stingy? No, they don't have any right to leave a damn thing, do they? Because you're already getting,
Yeah.
especially as a professional trustee, and even as an individual trustee. But that's how things work, see?
As an
And
individual trustee, you get paid also.
not necessarily.
Because I mean,
No, there's no mandatory requirement for the individual trustee to be paid. But if you act as an individual trustee today, I would suggest that you arrange to have that put in that trust instrument that you will be paid something. Because being a trustee is a huge responsibility and a lot of work to manage it, depending on the nature and type of trust. Okay? Now, if you have a little simple, itsy bitsy life insurance for $100,000 that you are the trustee for some reason, then you don't need to be paid for that. Okay? But certainly, if you're managing a multi-million-dollar trust, then of course you need to be compensated. That's the point. All right? So treat all, my, fairly and we keep saying that because, believe it or not, we all start out always on the good foot, and then in due season, things start to get, well, it's sick. So it's not easy to be good all the time. But that is what we required as fiduciaries. All right, number 3.
Give a comment with your sponsor.
Yeah, give an accounting of the. Yep. And to whom? Yeah, don't hide stuff. Some trustees hide stuff. They have poor accounting records. They only disclose what they want to disclose. They only tell the beneficiaries what they want. That's not what's required of a fiduciary or a trustee. You have to have proper accounting. You have to provide folks with information that they need and they request and they ask for whenever they ask for it. It's their assets that you're holding in trust, not yours. Some trustees, they'll start to treat it like it's their own, like it's their money, their assets. So Mr. Trustee can have a statement of account. I've asked you this my 3rd time. No problem, I'll send it next week. Next week comes around and nothing happens. Would that make a beneficiary suspicious?
Yeah.
By all means. The way to keep beneficiaries off your back is to give them what they ask for and give it to them when?
Right away.
Yes. Because you start waiting. Yes. Okay, Zephaniah, when you get married, your wife asks you a question, answer right away. She'll say, well, I'll give you an answer tomorrow. He said, oh, you need time to think about it. Yeah, it's that you're the typical lying man I married.
Not that bad. Please don't.
They're not that bad again. They're not that bad, Zeph. Just answer right away. And watch out for trick question like, am I fat? Even after all this time, my wife still asks me, am I? I'm like, is that a trick question?
You better say she's slim.
Listen and learn, Zap. Listen, I didn't say it. You better say? Okay. Doesn't matter what you think. Just say the right thing.
The thing is, what do you think?
Yeah, she wants to know what you think.
No, I'm still telling him, or the safest thing is ask her, what do you think? That's what
Oh, no, she will tell you that is an evasive question. You start saying, honey, am I fine? You say, well, what do you think, honey? She says, what the hell, what do you think? What, I don't know what you think. That means I'm fine, I hate you.
It is a good question.
It is a trick question.
Yes?
I guess that's what you was thinking all this time.
Yeah. So when she asks you she's fine, just walk up to the say, man, look here. I don't know what your problem is. What, you think I still be here? And rub her up. Yes, sir. And I don't care what yeah. Don't get into yeah. Why you look sweet to me? I don't get that. Okay, that's
I
it.
can't make it today.
Don't worry about all that egg. Alright, so this trustee thing is not simple. As you can see, it's very complex. Alright, number 4. Invest, yeah? See? Timely and authorized. Do you know that if you're holding cash, for example, and you do not invest it in the most efficient way, that beneficiaries can come back at the end of the year and say, well, how did you invest that cash? Oh, I left it on a savings account. How much did the savings account pay? 0.0007%, which we know. We're getting less than 1% now. I don't know what the hell kind of savings is that.
Yes.
Okay? When in fact, you could have put it into what? Money market fund and earn 2%, put it into short-term investments and earn 3% or something like that. So they can argue with you if you don't put it where? In the best and safest place to what? Maximize your interest. That's what trustees are required to do. Now you might say, well, I don't want to take a risk with it. Be like the guy who buried the coin. But you can't do that. Trustee can actually get upset with you for burying the coins. They want you to invest it in for the best possible return, but in the safest venue. They don't want you to take their money and put it in derivatives. Well, we invested 70% in derivatives. What's the return? We don't know yet. It's gone. They don't want to hear that either. And as a trustee, you are not required to do that foolishness. Because derivatives are too risky. Derivatives are investments based on, all kinds of different packages. One investment underlying the other investment is attached to another investment is attached to nothing.
Right.
Yeah, so it's very risky. The minute you hear derivatives, run. Unless you have a multi-millions of dollars that you can potentially lose because you wanna take a chance. But regular folk, do not mess with derivatives. They're too risky. The returns are great, but the losses are also great. Okay? And if you're still curious about them, just Google it and see. But I encourage you, if you're not an experienced investor with substantive amounts of money to play with, don't mess with derivatives. Stick with the usual stuff. Good stocks, great bonds, money market, short-term, government investment, treasury bills, the usual stuff. Okay? Now, does the trustee do this him or herself? No.
No,
What do they do?
they seek, investment.
Yeah, they hire professional investors to do this work. They don't do this themselves. Trustees are not required to be an expert in every field. Hell no. Trustees are only required to be what? Fiduciaries. Honest and upright. Who can read the trust instrument and follow it and stay away from conflict of interest. See? All the other stuff they can what? Hire. Of course. And that's how it works. Okay? By all means. Alright, number 5.
Protect and preserve trust.
Okay, I think that speaks for itself. It's like the police, protect and preserve. Protect and preserve. Yes, you want to get the best returns, but you want to protect and preserve first. Anything that's going to jeopardize protection and preservation, don't touch it. And if you can prove that that's why you didn't touch it, then you'll be okay. Simple as that. Number 6. Very important. Keep the beneficiaries informed. See? In accordance with and the my. Because if you start not informing, people are going to start to get what? Suspicious. Boy, once people start to get suspicious, Zeph, they start checking your phone, listening to your conversation, your pockets. You have to hide your wallet. What? Zeph says he's young. What I do, Zeph?
Experience.
What I do, Zeph, is to inspire confidence. You put your wallet on the table like that. I've been doing that for 30 years, and I come on like that.
But you hope that they don't go in.
Shut up.
Hope. That's why you put it there.
Well, I better know that nothing is in here. Because my wife, mother's sick. Sooner or later, because chicks are just inherently.
We are just investigators.
I used to work.
We're just
Curious.
investigators.
Yeah,
That's all we
that's
are.
curious. They're not nosy. They're just curious. Okay. We don't use nosy anymore. As old people talk.
And for God's sake, don't turn your phone down.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
don't flip it over like that.
Yeah, you flip it over, dog eat your lunch. Turn it down, dog eat your lunch. The phone never rings, like you have it on silent all the time, dog eat your lunch. Because they want to hear every ping and every ring. Like, who the hell?
Necessarily.
Not necessarily, just don't turn it down.
Just leave it up like that.
Yeah, so she can see who comes up on it. Who's she's like that. Who's Chantel? Who's more? Then I gotta say, mother sick, that's one of my children. Yeah, right. So shit, I'm dropping you next time. Which one? And I stop.
That one that look like a Chantal.
Yeah. So she got it. Zeph, all I can tell you, listen and for not to not do that, you see. Okay.
So funny and true.
It's absolutely so. Alright, and then number 7, not make a what? Yes. Unless
Authorized to do so.
by the or the
So the trust instrument will give you that authority.
yes, it can. It doesn't necessarily, but it can. And if you're interested in making a profit for some reason, as an oncoming trustee or as an existing trustee, then you should arrange for it to be there so you can have the what? Legal right to do it. So when you do it, nobody can say you did it of your own accord. Absolutely.
And conflict of interest.
Absolutely. Remember, you can get away from conflict of interest issues and those kinds of problems by just saying up front, you'll be doing this and getting the approval of these people. The instrument, the beneficiaries, and even the courts. Because remember, some trust issues are with the courts. Some trust issues need to be presented to the court for a final say. So if you have any doubt about any conflict of interest issues, you can say, hey, put it to the courts and see if you get an approval, like, I'm okay to do this as a trustee. And the courts will look at it and make a ruling, you're okay or not. If the courts say you're not okay, probably should stay away from that. If they say you're okay, fine. Okay? That's the key. So if you're ever thinking about doing anything untoward, potentially get clearance. What happens in the case of Boardman versus Phipps? This illustrates what?
Trustees is not making secret profits.
From the trust without authorization.
Oh, secret profits. Do politicians make secret profits? Okay.
Is that a trick
That's a
question?
trick question.
Depends on who's here. Yeah, everything is a matter of interpretation. Could be. According to the current group, they say that $10 million in contracts were signed just before elections. Is that true?
But we need to see the proof though.
Yeah, we need proof. Like, should they put in the paper?
Everyone, I mean, you could say, I'm not saying that they're saying it's a lie, but I would say.
Yeah, like, where's the proof? The reason why they probably wouldn't make it public is because maybe the person's in it could be seriously what? Yeah, exactly. Seriously what? The hell with whatever it is. We need to see it.
Yeah.
Well, seriously implicated, seriously something.
If you're not gonna provide proof, then just shut up.
Yeah, that's what I thought when they were grilling Comey about Trump. Like, where's the proof of a conversation between two people in a closed room? Why you want to impeach a whole president just because he say, they say, they say? Trump gotta go?
No, I
Oh.
guess they couldn't.
Yeah, the hell with Trump. You have enough problems with? Take him down. Who?
For climate change.
Is that as serious as it is? That's any implication for the Bahamas?
We're the most vulnerable.
We are the most vulnerable?
We're one of the most vulnerable to sea level rise.
So as a result of that, then should we stand up at the UN in our little spot and say, what the hell is this new president doing? Bastard? Should we say that?
Well, it don't matter.
No matter. I know it doesn't seem to. But when 90% of your tourists are Americans, does it matter?
I guess.
Yes. I know there's so many issues, aren't there? Why we discuss trusteeship.
Sorry.
No, this is all related. When we elect the government, are they the trustees? Of course. That's what I'm telling you. This whole, why are you studying like just this individual and opera? These are not the only trustees, in fact. When we select the government, they are our trustees. They hold the whole what? Future, the assets of the government, everything in trust. And we are hoping that they would act the same way as these people. We know for sure it doesn't always happen. Just as it doesn't happen with these people. When you get married and you have children, you become a trustee for them constructively. Because now you're responsible for the kingdom. Aren't we? Yeah. What's the trust instrument? That thing you signed when you get married, what's that? That paper that you signed? That's the trust instrument.
Really?
Yes. And you ought to be guided according. I'm telling you, this whole thing is interconnected. Trusteeships are not just these two. Trusteeships are way beyond those things sometimes. Okay? Are you a trustee for you? Yes, you are. Are you expected to act in a fiduciary manner for yourself? Yes, normally we would. As for our own stuff, we act as what? A prudent person would. I'm not wasting my stuff. I'm not investing my money in something. I'm not. And so when you become a trustee of anything else, you're expected to behave the same way. That's the point of all this. Except that sometimes Okay, Zaf, can you read that little paragraph? The secret profits.
Secret profits.
Yeah, little paragraph beginning, no person.
No person standing in a fiduciary position, and a demand is made upon him by the person to whom he stands in a fiduciary relationship to account for profit acquired by him by reason of opportunity and the knowledge of either resulting from it, is entitled to the fee within upon any ground, save that he may profits with the knowledge and assent of the other person.
What the hell is that? Legal language. In a nutshell, what is that saying?
Yeah, I'm saying basically, the trustee,
Mm-hmm.
if he's required, I guess, to give a reason for this profit that he made, I'm just thinking he should be able to declare.
Yes, and
He should
defend.
be able to declare and defend himself to say how he got this profit.
Absolutely.
He should do it without hesitation.
Absolutely. And so he should put himself in a position where he's not having to make secret profits and not being in a position to say how and why he did this and that he did it without authorization. That's really the whole point. Whatever you do in terms of making any profits, it should be above board, it should be known. Okay? It's as simple as that. Anything behind the scene, anything other than full disclosure is not acceptable from a trustee. Whether you're a trustee of an individual, as a company, as a country, does not matter. It should be on the table. Now, there are three ways that you can make profits. Profits can be in the form of? Yeah, well, no, that can happen. How could you make a profit in the form of director's fees, you think?
If you have a corporation, and you're the director, you're the trustee and the director, so that's your fee.
Yeah, and your fee could be what? A reasonable fee, or
It could
your
be-
fee could be an exorbitant fee.
Could be what you wanted.
Well, not necessarily what you wanted. It could be what you wanted until a certain group find out what the amount is. Called beneficiaries. Because remember, this money that you're paying you comes out of what? The company. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now here's what I'm saying. Oftentimes you have a trust. And underlying the trust is a company. The company is a typical company. It's selling whatever it's selling.
Right.
It's a commercial company. And the company operates like any other company. There's a board of directors. And oftentimes the trustee is represented on the board.
Yes.
So, if the trustee is sitting on the board and the trustee makes provisions to be paid exorbitant director's fees, where does the director's fees come from? Whose money is it? It's the
It's the
company's money, correct? And the company is actually owned by the trustee for the benefit of the whom?
beneficiary.
Beneficiaries. So in essence, this money technically belongs to the
Let's
beneficiaries.
back up now. Let's back up on that. We're talking about you. Okay, you already introduced this trust. This trust is already established, and I may in the trust instrument I may say anyhow whether this I don't know how the company is gonna perform, but I set 5% for myself.
As a trustee.
Yeah, so don't.
Now you can set 5% of director's fees.
I mean, initially I'm just thinking you already have this in place.
You might.
You're not concerned about whether this profit, I mean, if this company will make it or not. The point is, this is my set fee. So
Of course. And that's because even if you have the right to set that fee in the trust instrument, because whatever you're gonna set as director's fees, technically we know already you should have what? Approval for that. Where? In the trust instrument. If not the trust instrument, the beneficiaries. If not the beneficiaries, the courts. Now here's what I'm saying. Yes, you may set a fee as a trustee, whatever that is. And folks might allow you to take that fee for as long as they allow you. Who are they?
The beneficiary.
Yes. Or until they decide that that is too much flicking money.
So they can change that after the fact?
They can come to you as trustee and say, you are paying yourself too much in director's fees. And you can say, so what? What are you gonna do about it? And they can say, we're gonna sue you.
How you gonna sue?
I mean, beneficiaries can do anything they want. All they have to do is get together
Hey,
and
and
do
those
it.
agreements between the settler and the trustee in the first place, they
Maybe.
agreed to it,
Maybe,
so how they can sue?
maybe.
The only thing
It
they can
depends.
The only thing they can do is terminate the trust.
Well, and if you're a
They can't sue
trustee,
me.
what they remember now, people can sue you for anything,
But they
even though
ain't
you
gonna
may feel that. And if they sue, you can
They
say,
ain't
well,
gonna win.
here's the instrument. Now remember the court. What did we say about the court the last time? Once crap gets to the court, you don't know what. Boy, that's tricky. Even though you have an agreement, people have gone to court with an agreement, and the courts have found that this agreement is egregious. That's the word we can use. We think this agreement is egregious, and we render it null and void.
The question in the case of that, the trustee is the director on the board, that's not, is it normally set in the terms of the trust, or that is something, after the fact, that they see how things go and then they set this problem?
It may or may not be. That's just the whole point. Sometimes you might have it established in the original trust agreement. If the settler comes to the trustee as a company, so to speak, that might be in the initial arrangement. The agreement might have the settler agrees that the trustee will be paid a director's fee that is deemed to be normal within the normal business. Or they might set or percentage, or they might say subject to. So it just depends, see? And that's why you need to always look at the instrument and be guided accordingly, absolutely. And look at the wording for the specific activity. Do they address it or not? If they do address it, how is it addressed? And this is where the lawyers come and they start salivating. Because now you need the lawyers. And the minute they start looking at it, the clock starts ticking. And if you're a multi-million-dollar trustee, they just can't believe their good fortune. Because they'll be brooding over that for days, yes.
You're getting bill buddy,
By the second.
you understand?
That's a whole other issue. So if you can avoid going to them,
I used to work in the bank and I never see that much money,
I know,
but I see it today.
okay? Trust me, if you can avoid going to a lawyer, it's a good idea. If you can't, because something is mandatory, knock yourself out, do it. But once it gets in their hands, and the hands of the courts, it becomes a very expensive and unpredictable situation.
But one thing about the courts though, the judge have to act as a fiduciary as well. And
He does, and that's why sometimes what you might have as an original agreement might be thrown out, because
Yeah,
now
but
he's acting
Yeah, well,
in that capacity, absolutely. Remember, the courts can overrule even an agreement. They might say, we are in agreement with the agreement. Or, they might render it what? Null and void. Remember when we went to the Privy Council and they killed that girl many years ago and mutilated her body? And it finally ended up to the the Privy Council, because we were seeking the death penalty? What did they say? We don't think that was grievous enough.
it was in the worst of the world.
Yeah, and what is the worst
I want
of
to know,
the worst?
I would like to know right now.
We still don't know.
I-
It's an undefined hemispheric expression. Like, where is it?
Yeah.
And who the hell allowed them, our learned friends, to say that's not the worst of the worst without giving an explanation as to what is the worst of the
I
worst?
would like to know. I would like
Who
to know.
allowed that?
Because when
We
you
did.
disseminating bodies and throwing acid
Yeah.
on people.
They raped her, beat her up, mutilated her, closed their flicking eyes and do like this with the chick.
You have to demonstrate.
And this is not half as dramatic as what happened to that poor girl. Can you imagine that?
That's sad.
That stink!
I think it's supposed to be an acting.
Oh,
It's a wrong
seriously,
profession.
I'm telling you, it is serious. How the hell they could, and then don't come up with what it is. So we're still stuck. So when the next one goes to them, the problem is, in that part of the world, they no longer believe in and therein lies the problem. It has nothing to do with not the grievous of the grievous. They can define it if they need to. but they don't wish to define it. Nobody's pressing them to define it, because the whole world, especially the Western world, is now moving towards what? Removing the death penalty, period. That's why we can't have it done here, even though it's on our books. Because we are trying to stay in tandem with the rest of the Western world. Why do I say Western? Because in the Eastern world, if you thief, they still flicking cut off your hand.
Yeah.
If you rape, they still cut off your penis in public. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yes. Only in the Western world will we are civilized. You can rape and maintain your penis and go to prison and have fun. You can mutilate and still not be mutilated. You can go in prison and then our tax dollars are being used to bathe, feed, and preserve the person who mutilated our daughter. Your daughter Zephaniah, one day. How about that? Your sweet girl who you flicking and singing to sleep all.
That's why.
That's the day I buy dynamite. There we go.
You see, it just
Dynamite.
it angers you.
That's the day I buy dynamite.
Blow something up.
Blowing everything up. No gun.
It stinks. All right. So yeah. First of all, a trustee, profits may be in the form of directors' fees. What else? Anything else?
Yeah, just into competition with the business.
Yeah, enters into competition with a business belonging to his trust. How about that? He can make profits from that. The only time that's acceptable if he agrees to that in advance. Anything other than agreeing in advance, an agreement or a settle or whatever, that's not acceptable. Okay? Because the trust doesn't want to be in competition with the trustee's company. And we know that politicians around the world, for example, they have companies outside and they direct business from the country's business through their company. They don't do any independent bidding. They set up a company and all the business, if, for example, they need toilet paper, their company supply all the toilet paper to the whole country. How about that? Is that legal? No. Politicians shouldn't be doing that. He shouldn't have a company directing the business to that company, his company. No, it's a clear conflict of interest. But it happens all the time. Don't even talk about road works. But you're right. And all kinds, yeah, absolutely. Okay? So when these guys are in there, whoa, for me, they're not making noise to earn $28,000 a year as an MP. Are they? No. They're thinking about these things we're talking about.
Exactly.
What am I going to do with my trusteeship? See?
Exactly.
What am I going to do with my trusteeship as an MP? That's sick.
What you can do for me.
But I just want you to know, this is the election thing. They're saying, I will be your fiduciary. I will take seriously the issues that you've entrusted to me.
The people's
Just
job.
vote.
Also, it's for the people. It's for the people's time, boy. They better please these people.
Well, that's sick. It's another story now. Trusteeship. And number 3, how else?
Misuse of opportunities and information.
Oh, misuse. We talked about that early. Oh. If you have information and you use like inside information, you cannot use it to your benefit. It is not acceptable. But these are the 3 ways that trustees can make profits. And so you need to be careful, if you're a trustee, that you do not abuse any of these 3 privileges.
What is it meant by misuse of opportunities?
Misuse of opportunity? You have the opportunity to find out information that is inside information, and then you use it to benefit for your personal gain. So, for example, if Cable Bahamas is going to get the contract from the government for the next cellular thing, and you all sit on Cable Bahamas' board, or as a trustee you get that information, you go ahead and buy Cable Bahamas shares, because you know the share price will go up. Then you're using personal information that you gain inside for your personal benefit. That is illegal. It's called inside information, inside
And
trading.
you can see it happening here, right?
Of course. Happens all around. We're just catching up with all of this exciting stuff. New ways to be crooked. We're learning from our international counterparts. We pick everything else up. Okay? My. All right. So those are your 3 areas that you can earn profits that may not necessarily be the kinds of profits you should be seeking to earn as a trustee, unless you agree in advance that it is okay to do it. All right, now we have the question of delegation. What does delegation mean? Yeah, to taper out a particular activity or job, pass it down to persons to do on your behalf, and of course when they're done they report to you as to whatever the results are. Can a trustee delegate? According to this?
If it's authorized to do so from the trust instrument.
If the instrument authorizes it, you can delegate. Now, can you delegate your responsibility as a trustee?
No, sir.
No, you cannot. Do they tell us? A trustee may not. Be open with that. Delegate his duties as an agent or a trustee or co-trustee. You cannot. Unless what? He is authorized to do so. That's the first thing. My. He must be allowed to do it. It must be expressed, and it must be clear that he has the authority to do it. Now, when you delegate, you can delegate an activity as a trustee, but you cannot delegate your responsibility for the result of that activity. So if you delegate the investment to an investment firm or an investment manager, the results are your responsibility as trustee. So your job as trustee is to impress upon the investment firm or manager that we expect you to do this the best job you can. Because at the end of the day, when I go to my beneficiaries, yeah, they aren't interested in you. They're interested in what I tell them as trustee. And if they're not happy, they don't care about you. They will deal with me as trustee. Okay? And so yeah, you can delegate the activity as trustee, but not the responsibility.
I have seen in some cases where if the trustee has to delegate or outsource anything,
Yes.
sometimes they will ask the beneficiaries to recommend their own, if you are okay with this company.
They do,
this
absolutely.
lawyer or whatever, and they get that from the beneficiary from the outset.
Absolutely.
And that avoids that as well.
Yeah, it helps to keep some of the tension, at least you have agreement. Now, a lot of trustees don't like to do that because they think I got this, and others, as a precaution, depending on their experiences with certain beneficiaries, say, you know what, I better have a chat with these people before I proceed to see if they are happy. Absolutely. And sometimes that's not a bad idea as a trustee. Because remember, as a professional trustee earning tons and tons of money every year, you want to do as much as you can to keep your beneficiaries happy
Especially
without
with-
jeopardizing your position.
I think especially with investment, we want them to know about certain-
Especially investments, cash issues, disbursement issues, things like this. Where's the money going? And where's the money coming from? And where's the VAT? Did we ever get an answer on that? It's in the consolidated fund. That was the answer. So once it goes into the black hole, well, that's it. All right. Who was in there then? Felice, have you read already? Oh, all morning? No, I guess somebody else is trying. Lisette. Doggone it. Lisette, can you read in common law?
In common law, the case of Steele versus Welcome Custodian Trustees Limited, 1988, confirmed that a trustee will be given immunity or protection under law of the delegation of his duties to an agent. However, under the Trustee Act 1998, the trustee must take reasonable steps in the appointment of such agents and in the supervision of their delegated tasks.
Interesting. So under common law, when we say common law, what do we mean again? Under common law, when we hear that expression, what do we think about? What should we be thinking about?
Humanitarian laws.
Sort of. Common law is a practice that has always been happening in the past that we bring forward from one century to the next to the current period. That's what common mean. Common mean it was not passed by statute, by parliament.
Okay.
It just means that it went to court, the
Okay.
judges made a ruling on it. It's okay for guys to change tires and women don't have to. That's a common law, and so we do that straightforward until now, when now Everybody have to change their own time. Common law is a practice that has occurred over and over and over in the past, usually sanctioned by the courts. Sanction meaning the courts approve the particular activity, and so every time we have a similar or equal case, we use the same principle to make a decision.
Yes. But I always wonder why they refer to older cases after the ruling of.
That's why, because common law is created from exactly what he said, a word called precedent or precedent. Okay, things that happen before. Okay, and that's why we refer to it as common, as opposed to statutory. Common means to the common man. Okay, we take the normal stuff that has happened in the past. The court makes a decision as to what is fair and right, and then we use that decision for every instance pertaining to a similar or exact case. Okay, by all means. So, if in common law a trustee is expected to be fiduciary, then that goes forward forever and ever until something changes that, or that precedent is changed to another precedent. Okay. All right. So, in common law then, we are told what? Immunity or protection, yes. Under common law. So, if a trustee is acting in good faith, as far as his responsibilities in this area, common law in the courts will always find him to be immune against any action by beneficiaries, so to speak. But however, in modern law, or statutory trust law, under the Trustee Act of 1988 for the Bahamas, what happens now?
Trustees must take reasonable steps in appointment.
Yeah, and in the,
Supervision of delegation.
because under the Trustee Act, if you look at that section, you'll see that there are certain things that they have to be guided by, according to the Act. And if you're not following the Act, then you can be found wanting as a trustee. Under common law, as long as you basically acted honestly and in good faith, you were immune. But that immunity is not automatic if you're in a jurisdiction where there is a statutory law.
Okay.
Okay? Now, that doesn't mean they will not consider common law issues in the courts. But if there is a statutory document, the courts might use that statutory document to override the common
So
law.
they may use it, so don't supersede it
Correct.
automatically.
No. But doesn't mean that they cannot revert to common law and say, yeah, we have this act. But in our opinion, based on the facts, remember? Because every situation is different. That's what is interesting.
So,
Alright.
So I noticed like, okay, so when the deeds have, trust will be governed by the laws of Bahamas, and that's stipulated in the deed.
Yes.
Will that supersede, because you know you're dealing with international clients, and if something happens, do we consider common law from other countries? No, right?
Well, usually common law issues will only occur
If the
in
jurisdiction-
what kind of jurisdiction? Common law jurisdictions.
But common law jurisdiction, I'm just thinking, if they say in the deed that is some wording to say that the Bahamas jurisdictional laws, the trust will be governed by that.
By the Trustee Act, for
Then if
example.
it were to go to court, if anything happens and it were to go to court, then we would consider our law.
First, yes, and foremost.
Like just how they come here to get like certain doctors and things of that sort of here. Everything should be guided by our laws.
Yeah, if there's a law, if there's a statutory law in place, we will be guided by that law first and foremost. Now, if we discover that that law, compared to common law, turns out to be what? Inequitable for some reason, and somebody's going to be put in a position that is unfair, then the courts can very well use common law to rule against it, but it will all be within the confines of our jurisdiction. Okay?
So we see why these steps are reasonable, because the courts will be considering the interests of the beneficiaries.
No doubt about it. First and foremost, absolutely. Especially in the case of trusteeships. The interest of the beneficiaries will always, for the most part, guide their decisions. First and foremost. By all means. Very interesting. All right, so under common law, there's general immunity. However, in a particular jurisdiction like the Bahamas or Barbados or any other jurisdiction that has statutory law, then the trustee has to consider the statutory law in the terms of the decision that he or she makes about a particular situation. Okay? So you have to be very careful and find out, do we have an act? Yes. What does the act say? X, Y, and Z. Are we following that act? Yes or no? Because if it goes to court, the courts will first take the act and see whether or not you're in conformance with the act, and whether or not the act is in the interest of the beneficiaries. And if that is so, they will rule. If it is not so, they'll certainly come up with an alternative ruling, notwithstanding the requirements of the act. But we like to put the act what? First and foremost in our decisions. All right. Notice also in that next paragraph, we're told that it is important to note that only in
Exceptional circumstances.
may a fiduciary receive what?
Remuneration.
Boy. So all this stress means that you're not necessarily automatically going to be paid. Only in exceptional circumstances. Now we know in modern trust environments, especially professional fiduciaries, they are paid. They make provisions in the trust instrument, no ifs, ands, and buts. They're not going to do it free because they need a whole array of professionals internally and externally. And these people need to be paid. So, now of course, external sources, outsourcing like investments and so on, will the trustee pay that out of his own money?
No,
No. Where does that come from?
from the.
Trust fund.
From the trust fund,
Of
yeah.
course. Okay? But in any event, professional trustees have staff to pay and profits to make, don't they?
Yes.
So they're not going to do it free. An individual trustee, because that's your boy, your bestest friend, and all that, they might do it free. But even an individual trustee nowadays, are you kidding me?
No.
John, you're my boy, but I need to eat. How can you?
John
What?
knows better.
Yeah, John knows better, but doesn't mean John will do better. When it comes to money, you have to tell John. Because if you tell John I'll do it free, say great. He wouldn't say, man, I need to pay you, man. I paying you, boy. He wouldn't say that. Very seldom.
When you exchange money, that gives them that they would comply and say, oh. you know,
I would want to pay you, buddy, because I want you to carry out my.
Want to be carried out
Yeah.
in a.
Go ahead, say it. Yeah, in a professional way. Yeah, with responsibility.
If I give you this $100,000 to manage.
And you're not paying anything. People might not be so.
Get my $100,000 back.
May never. They may egg it up. They might keep this for
Once you
myself.
exchange money, that means that's a business arrangement
That's
that you are held responsible for.
Yeah, it creates a level of responsibility. Absolutely. Even if it's your best friend. Okay? Even if it's your best friend. Now if your spouse is your trustee, that's a little different situation. You're not necessarily, well, I'll pay my spouse, because at the end of the day, somewhere along the way, your spouse is expected to be the beneficiary as well, somewhere. So in a case like that, perhaps not, but not necessarily, because if your spouse is going to administer something for some period of time, it may not make, and they're not, well, they should be the beneficiary at some point, hopefully. And so it may not be a key issue. But for anybody else, you would want to exchange money, hopefully. Because like you said, money creates an air of and a level of responsibility. That doesn't mean, though, that if money does not change hands, you are not responsible. If you don't get paid and you mess up, the courts will treat you as if you were paid.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. That's what the fiduciary, once you take on the responsibility. If you decided you don't need to be paid, I'm fine, I'm rich enough, I'm poor enough, I'm enough. I don't need to be paid, that's fine. But the courts will treat you with the same responsibility. You can't go in court one day and say, well, I messed it up because I wasn't getting paid. They say, well, we're going to put you in prison notwithstanding. Or we're going to deal with you notwithstanding. Okay? So that's something to keep in mind. So only an exceptional may a fiduciary receive remuneration. That's interesting. What would the exception be? In the trust instrument. Make sure when you draw up the trust instrument, or it's drawn up, that you as trustee are in there to receive reasonable remuneration.
That's what I was saying earlier, like, if that's the general rule, then if the beneficiaries still feel like we're getting too much or whatever.
They can contest it.
Sometime later,
Yes, they can.
they have a lot of,
Remember, they can contest anything they want. And they might take it to court saying that they think you're getting too much. You might say as trustee, well, the settler wanted this for me. We agreed on this. And the courts will look at it and see whether they agree with the trustee or the beneficiaries. If the courts believe that the amount is now too little or too much, they will make a ruling accordingly. Notwithstanding your original arrangement.
that would like a case study on that.
Okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Trust me, the lawsuits are left, right, and center, especially now. 100 years ago, there were no lawsuits. 50 years ago, a few lawsuits. Nowadays, people are suing for. Beneficiaries get up Monday. I don't think I'm getting enough money. $1 million a year is not enough. See what I mean? And they might sue for that. And if the trust fund is not lucky, some court might say, you're right. Susan, I don't think you're getting enough. You haven't had a cost of living increase for 17 years. We need to upgrade. How come that didn't happen, Mr. Trustee? See what I mean? So now a lot of things could happen in this business. All right. However, as a general rule, trustees are not allowed to be.
Remunerated for the.
General rule. That's interesting. As a general rule, you are not allowed to be paid unless authorized by the trust instrument. So the solution to that is simple. Before you become a trustee, make sure it's in there. Don't be happy-go-lucky and then afterward you discover it's not in the trust instrument. And somebody said, but John, you're not supposed to be paid. Well, how come you got $5 million in the last 3 years? He said, well, I just thought so. And I said, it's not in the instrument, John. My lawyer already looked at it. See? You have to pay it back.
Yeah, what would bug me if I charge them little and find that I invest and these people get all kind of money.
Yes. My.
I could be making more for them.
My. That's another issue. Because if you agreed on X amount and you're investing on behalf of the beneficiaries and the investments skyrocket, and you figured, shouldn't your income be attached to the skyrocket? Says who? Is it in the instrument? No. Then it is not attached. If the returns are millions and millions and millions, and your fee is 1 million, then that's it. Of course, you can go to the courts, can you not, and say, sir, Your Honor, when we first established this trust instrument, it seemed reasonable at the time. However, given the progress of this fund, I feel that I should be able to get an increase in my fees.
But further down it says the court is on her discretion to allow the
My, somebody read down. What does it say?
The court does not have the discretion to allow
Does or does not?
Does.
Does, oh,
Oh,
okay.
yes.
Discretion to allow remuneration or increase.
It does? Yeah,
Scary.
absolutely.
That's a good
Yeah, it
thing.
was spooky for I'm glad you said that. Spook us for a minute. It does have the discretion. So if you think that the remuneration that you're getting 5 years ago, 10 years, or 40 years ago, because some trustees have been trustees for decades, by the way, did you know that?
Yep.
We call them legacies. They're trustees for legacies. Legacies are what? Monies that are left in trust. That's why we call them legacies. And some trustees have been trustees for decades. 50, 70, 100 years or more. They've been a trustee for a particular trust. ACIES. LEGACIES. Believe it or not. LEGACIES. Or LA.
What
you say that?
I know that sure
The singular is legacy, LAGACY. The plural, or more than one, is LAGACIES.
I know. What'd you say? Legacy?
Oh, legacies? Assets or trust, assets that are left in trust. Usually with the trustee. Doesn't have to be with the trustee. Okay? A legacy is anything that is left as a will or in trust for someone or some group or some dog. You know, people leave stuff for the dogs, right? There's some trustees that are managing trust for animals and the children of the animals and their grandchildren and so on. I quite agree. But some people love their animals more than they love. Absolutely. And so they leave millions of dollars sometimes in trust for their pets. And when all of their pets and their pets die off, if anything is left, then they're required to use whatever is left for other pets everywhere. Just make sure you don't help any humans with it. My, could that be? All right. Therefore, since the courts has discretion, remuneration is not automatic. It has to be in the trust instrument. Trustees must ensure that the what? Trust instrument allows them to be remunerated. You see that? For what kind of expenses? Why reasonable? Who put that there? Was that a typo? Why did they put reasonable?
So you won't give?
Yeah, so you don't take more than you're supposed to. Because if you don't put reasonable, now some people say, what is reasonable? Well, you better figure it out. Because if you put what you think is reasonable and the beneficiaries don't think it's reasonable, they're going to what? Sue you. And remember, we already told the courts does have the discretion to change it. John Trustee, you really think that's reasonable now? $10 million a day? Well, of course, Your Honor, considering. Of course.
Aside for 38.
And they're elite professionals. You can't pay them less than $300,000 a year, plus benefits. You may not say get away with that. They said, boy, you better go out and evaluate this thing before. I don't recommend that they change you as a trustee. Bastard. All right. So, the courts then have discretion to allow remuneration or increase our trustees' remuneration. If they can increase, they can also decrease. Make no mistake about it. Okay. Have a look at Foster & Company and see what they say about remuneration. Very interesting stuff. All right. Now to powers. Well, if we're on powers, where we were before? What's all that talk we had before? Oh, all that was just duties? Let's see. Which is worse, duties or powers? The duties. It's funny. Sometimes you might think that duties and powers are synonymous, don't you? They might be, because some trustees have mixed them up. Duties and powers, they just interchange them. Well, my power is my duty is my power. But according to this, they are two separate things. Let's see what we're talking about. Okay.
The nature of a trust.
Who read? Who said that? Okay, let it rip. That's what I'm talking about.
The nature of a trust involves a trustee holding the legal interest in property.
Legal interest, everybody agrees with that?
Yeah.
That the trustee holds a legal interest. How did they get the legal interest?
When the assets were transferred to them.
Yes, when the settlor, remember last session we said, the settlor has to turn over everything to the trustee. If the settlor has a mortgage, he has to convey the deed from his name into the trustee's name. If the settlor has $1 billion on CD, he has to sign over the CD certificate into the trustee's name. If the settlor has $1 trillion in paintings, he has to sign over his interest in all the paintings on a document over to the
Trustee.
That's deep. That's why persons in civil law countries do not like trusts, because they don't want to turn over their assets to anybody other than them. They don't trust anybody until they're dead. And then they'll leave it in a will or let the government decide how it's distributed. Well, that's another
I
problem.
have a question. Wasn't decided, was it stated that I, as a settler, can hire a trustee to administer my estate, but then I am the sole beneficiary for it?
Sure, that can happen in certain jurisdictions. Of course,
Does that happen here?
and yes.
That's what
The
they
whole
love.
Caribbean jurisdiction
They love
and a
that.
few others. Those are modern trust laws, which allows the settlor
To be a beneficiary.
to be a beneficiary as well, in some cases. Of course, some beneficiaries other than the settlor, if there are other beneficiaries, there may not be. You follow? You might have a trust where the sole beneficiary is the settlor. And you ask yourself, if the sole beneficiary is settlor, why the hell do you have a trust? And that might be raised in terms of whether the trust is a sham or not. Because if you're the sole beneficiary and you're the settlor, and you're running the trust and you're instructing the trustee about how to invest and so on, basically you don't need a,
Trust.
so why do you have one? Would be the question. Are you trying to
Because the trustee
evade
would be-
taxes?
The trustee would be the person who owns it, right?
The trustee?
Right, the trustee would be the person.
The trustee would own the assets. Yes,
So it would be in the trustee's name, not the settlor's name.
Correct.
Right.
correct.
What if I just don't monetary invest
You just want to turn it
Yeah,
over to a
that's-
trustee?
that's the
You can do that if that's your intent,
Yeah,
So I
but that's not everybody's intent.
But I could be the sole beneficiary.
You could be.
yeah, but I.
As long as the sole beneficiary is not designed for you to evade or to avoid taxes. By saying that my assets are in the trust and therefore I am not liable to pay taxes. If you're the sole beneficiary, there are no other beneficiaries, and you're pretty much helping the trustee to manage the trust and so on, in one form or another, that trust may be deemed to be a grantor trust from the United States perspective anyway, and they'll say as a grantor trustee or grantor trust, the beneficiary will have to pay taxes on his personal income. Some persons try to establish a trust in certain jurisdictions in order to avoid paying taxes to certain governments
Or higher.
or hide assets. If you're hiding assets from creditors, or you are trying to avoid taxes and they find out, then you will be pursued.
Not no more.
Those days are
Over.
gone. There was a time when you could get away with that.
No.
But if you do it nowadays, you better be clear on why you're doing it. And even though you might be clear, the government of your country might decide that they are not as clear as you, Zephaniah from the Bible. What we see here is an intent to,
It's a shame.
yes, evade.
Fraud.
Okay? My.
So in the case, I should at least put somebody else.
That would help, maybe. As long as all the other things are in place and you don't do anything to suggest that you're trying to get around paying taxes or hiding assets from creditors. By all means. Okay, keep going.
The equitable interest in the property is held in trust for the beneficiary. It's lawful owner.
It's lawful owner. So, the lawful owner of the assets happen to be the beneficiaries.
Or the lawful owner.
Yeah, that's interesting. But they are legally in the hands of the trustee who is holding them in trust for the beneficiaries. Very unique situation, isn't it? That one group can be the legal owner and the other group is the lawful owner. What the hell is that? Sounds like semantics, doesn't it? But that's how it works. And if you try and mess with that,
It's understandable because it's a trust. I mean, if you're understanding what the trust is truly all about, then you'll know that the beneficiaries are the lawful owners.
indeed, people in civil law countries still don't get that. No matter how you try to explain it to them a long time.
No, you get it.
They said, I have to turn over my assets to someone else, some other entity, and then I don't own them ever anymore? And you say, no, you don't. So before you turn them over, think hard, think long. And so persons in civil jurisdictions, they think hard, and they think long, and they say, no, we're not doing it. The hell with you and your trust. And by the way, get the hell out before I get mad. And you never leave South America, huh? You cheating, conniving. Okay, keep going.
A foul is where a person owns both the legal and equitable interest in property.
Okay.
As the absolute owner of the property, the person may do as he wishes with the property and may, in his absolute discretion, transfer all or part of the property to another person.
Who are we talking about here in terms of person?
You say the person, okay, it says the power is where a person owns both the legal and equitable interest.
Who's that person?
That would be a settler in the beginning, eh?
Is it?
No, that's a separate person who the settler appoints.
Who's that person?
The
The protector?
The protector, somebody.
Is it?
This is the person.
Getting warm.
This is the person who they hire to make sure that the trustee is doing what they're supposed to do.
Is it?
No, they say
No.
owns.
Hold on, let's back up, let's
Remember, the
back up.
protector doesn't own anything.
Yeah,
Let's
you
back
say
up.
owns.
A power is where,
The person.
so a power would be that express authorization in
Uh-huh.
in the instrument.
If a person who?
They say where a person, we're not talking about a person, it says a power is where
Okay.
a person owns both the legal and equitable interest in a.
And typically,
a
who's that
property.
person? For our purposes.
The trustee.
The trustee.
The trustee.
Yes,
So the
yes.
trustee now has this power.
Usually the trustee has this power because he now owns both the legal and
Equitable
equitable. He owns the property legally, but he has an equitable interest in maintaining it for whom?
The
The
beneficiary.
beneficiaries.
That makes sense.
Beneficiaries of that.
Yeah, you can read it.
But I, okay, that's right.
Yes, indeed.
Maybe
I
she
established
can-
that this book is.
Yeah. But you gotta, but not only that, you gotta try to
Yeah.
understand what it is. they
It
say.
would have been nice if they just threw it in there to remove all confusion.
Yeah.
But again, be careful because you might get a question that talks about legal and equitable ownership and ask you, who the hell is that? Just to see if you know that it's the trustee. Who has legal and equitable interest. Okay, keep going.
It is important to note that while a trustee may be the legal owner of trust property,
Okay, which is true, we know that now. He's a legal owner because everything has been transferred into his name or his company name, whatever the case might be.
he does not have the full powers of a legal owner of property.
True or false?
True.
What are the full powers of a legal owner?
You don't have full powers to do anything that he wants.
No.
The only power he has is to do what's in the instrument.
Yeah, he has no power to do whatever he feels like.
You don't have power.
In other words, if you have a car
That's my
and that's
car.
yours, you can do anything you feel like. But if a trustee has it, he can't do anything he feels like. He has to do whatever is in the best interest of the beneficiaries. Absolutely. So it's an amazing relationship. Okay, keep going.
A trustee's powers are dictated by the powers afforded to him in the trust instrument
Which we know.
and are restricted by such powers.
Which we know.
Exactly.
The trustee gets his powers from the trust instrument, and this trust instrument restricts what he can and cannot do.
Okay, so now you got to help me with something because Ms. Archer said, she asked a question I was writing down the questions and she threw them out as to what may be a examination question.
Mm-hmm.
One is, what is the difference between a trust and a power? But after we experience this power now, this express power, I'm understanding what it is that a trustee can do and how he's restricted by this power. But
Correct.
But now I need to still know really much clearer in which, how to.
Yeah, a power is what? When the trustee has what?
Authorization.
Legal and equitable interest or power. That's the power. What is the trust? Where this power is restricted by a trust instrument. Do you follow that?
Okay, now, you know, earlier, right, we learned that the trustee has legal interests.
And equitable.
Now we learning unequitable.
Oh, unequitable,
As
okay.
we go further in the book, because initially it was
Yeah, it was just.
the beneficiaries have equitable
Equitable.
interest, but now
Yes.
we're placing this legal and equitable interest
Yes.
in the trustees. power.
Yes.
Now you're saying, I understand that he doesn't have full power, but then we're gonna attack a question as, what is the difference between a trust and a power? When we talked about the trust, I understand, like, you know, the trust insurance.
Now, when you say what is a trust, I wonder what form that question would be. You shouldn't get a question as broad as what is a
That's
trust.
what I mean, right?
Okay.
I write down the questions and that was one. She probably have to help me with that.
Unless of course, if you get a question that says, what is a trust? Just what is a trust? Then basically, what do you think would be some of the components of your answer to what is a trust?
Well, we'll talk about the relationship, the trust, the settler.
The fiduciary relationship between
the
Settler
settler, trustee,
and trustee. Okay? What else would you think about in terms of what is a trust?
I would think with a trust instrument, what is
Yeah, that it is guided by a
trust
trust instrument. Do you follow? These are the kinds of answers if you get a question as broad as what is a trust. Okay? What else about a trust? The trustee has both what? Legal and equitable interest, or power, sorry, and so on. So all the characteristics of a trust, the assets of a trust would have to be legally transferred and so on. So depending on what form the question takes, you would have to provide the relevant set of information. Now, if you ask about the power, like to define what is the power of a trustee, then that's a pretty simple answer. The power of a trustee is that he has what? Legal and?
Equitable interest.
Absolutely.
You kind of
We were doing,
question like
yeah, we
trust.
were doing questions like that, like was, we were comparing.
And if you get a question on what is a trust, it should be something like, what are some of the characteristics of a trust? That would be a relevant question, and so you would outline some of these concepts that you're aware of. Okay? If you get a question on the powers, what are the powers, then we now know what the powers are represented by. Because they tell us very clearly earlier, a power, right at the bottom of 40, is where a person owns both the and
Equitable interest of
in the property.
the property.
Simple, don't complicate it. Now, unless of course you want to define more further what legal and equitable means. And we know that that means, legal means that the settler transfer all of his assets legally over to the trustee, and equitable means that he is holding it on behalf of the beneficiaries in terms of their interest in the trust. Okay. Good question, so be careful with that. All right,
Is it the bottom of that?
sorry,
Is it the bottom of that same paragraph?
page 40, 41, what does it say?
The distinction between a trust and the power placed in a trust was outlined in the case of Maxfield versus.
Did anybody look at my field?
I did, but
What did they say? What was the core? The distinction between a trust and a power placed in a trust.
distinction, I have here, they was trying to determine the beneficiaries, right, but that. Right here.
What was the gist of it? Did they actually make it clear about what the distinction is? Based on that case?
Sorry about that.
What power would normally be placed in a trust? The power to have legal and equity interest. That would be the power. But what did they say about the trust itself? In terms of this case?
I could just read, it's short, sort of short,
Okay? Read it real quick.
okay?
Let's see if we can find it. If anybody hears the difference, shout.
This case is also known as Rebating Deeds Trust. Is a leading English trust law case by the House of Lords on the certainties of beneficiaries.
Certainties, that word sounds funny. Where did we see that before? That's one of the.
Certainties.
Why is certainties important again?
To say
Without
trust
those
is
certainties, then the
valid.
trust is not valid.
It's not a-
Can you have 2 out of 3? One out of 3? No. Okay. Just a little reminder, what the point I'm making also is, here we are looking at the distinction between a trust and a power in a trust, and all of a sudden the certainties pop up again in an English case. That's really some of the benefits of actually looking at this stuff. Okay? Let's see what they say.
It held that so long as any given claimant can clearly be determined to be a beneficiary or not, a trust is valid.
So if the beneficiary can be deemed to be a beneficiary, then the trust is valid, okay?
I draw no ball on that, hold on.
We hope so. That's why you have to read that stuff home in your bed with your muffs on.
Okay, these are the facts. Bertram Biden, executor, a deed settling a non-charitable trust
Okay.
for the benefit of the staff of Matthew Hall and Co. Limited.
So who are the beneficiaries? Store and Coke Limited, okay?
Mm-hmm. And their relatives and dependents.
Okay?
The objects clause provided that the trustee shall apply the net income of the fund in making at their absolute discretion grants to or for the benefit of any of the officers and employees or ex-officers or ex-employees of the company, or to any relatives or dependents of such persons in such amounts at such times on such conditions.
In
if
their
any,
absolute
as
discretion.
As they think fit.
Yes.
The validity of the trust was challenged. Judgment, Lord Wilberforce.
Who challenged it, did they say? The beneficiaries?
Just say the validity.
The validity was challenged? Okay, let's see what
The
happened.
objects were insufficient, certain.
Oh, the objects were insufficient, didn't cover enough, potentially. Let's see what they said.
So, Lord Wilberforce,
Lord.
after noting the fact that the settler had left his property on trust with instructions to distribute according to the trustees' choices.
According to whose choices?
Trustees'
Whose?
choices.
Choice, trustee or settler? How did the trustee get that power?
Because it was transferred.
What gave that trustee the power
We're not
to do
gonna-
it?
I mean,
The trustee's choices. It was a discretionary
yeah,
trust.
discretionary.
That's very important. If it was non-discretionary, then the trustee had no power to do it. He had to do only what was in the what? Instrument or deed. But if you have a discretionary trust, then you can supersede the deed by making decisions as you see fit. Very important. Okay, let's see what Lord Tom Jones said.
He said, stated the following. As a matter of reason, to hold that a principle of equal division applies to trusts, such as the present, is certainly paradoxical.
Cool.
Equal division is surely equal division is surely the last thing the settler ever intended.
Hello? Does everybody get that? The Lord said, small l,
Say the
that equal division was not the intention of the settler. Because clearly, if the trustee was given a discretionary trust, that does not imply equal
yeah.
at all.
Equal income, yeah.
Okay?
And he says, equal division among all may probably would produce a result beneficial to none. Why suppose that the court would lend itself to a whimsical execution?
Yes.
And as regards authority, I do not find that the nature of the trust and of the court's power over trust calls for any such rigid rule.
Excuse me, folks. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of legal gobbledygook, but let's just pull out a few things that we already know. First of all, the trust instrument said nothing about equal distribution. Secondly, the trust was a non-discretionary trust, which means the trustee was able to do what he felt like. Thirdly, the court is suggesting, notice what they said, even though the court has the power over the trust. And we said earlier, when you take something to court, the court can overrule just about any situation. And there's the suggestion of that power of the court. Okay.
Equal division may be sensible
But,
and has been decreed in cases of family trust
yes.
for a limited class.
Yes.
Here there is life and maximum equal.
Because this is not family, is it? This is a staff thingy for employees or whatever.
Maximum equality is equity. But the cases provide numerous examples where this has not been so. And different type of execution has been ordered appropriate to circumstances.
Hello? Appropriate to circumstances. Point I want to make here is, do not think that just because you have a standard trust instrument and everything seems well, when matters go to court, things can change. And this is a suggestion that things can change. So be careful.
So, Lord Wilberforce then went on to discuss the authority of this principle, which is compelling. As to the value of the facts, the comments above was a powerful reason for departing from the Broadway cottages cases. That's
What
something they-
was the common law, the common?
That was the
50-50.
common law, Broadway cottages cases 1955,
Okay?
which was the basis for the strict test of certainty of objects
Yes.
of discretionary trust has overruled MacPhail. So,
So how does that now help us to determine the distinction between a trust and a power placed in a trust? Well, we have a trust instrument with all the general terms and conditions of a trust. But because the trustee was given discretion, that means the trustee has a power that can overrule the instrument itself. And if anybody has any problems, then they can go to Lord Tingham now, who can further overrule if they so decide, or maintain the current position.
So that's,
So difference, the trust instrument is the express document, the power can go beyond the written word
in a discretionary.
in a discretionary trust. That's the difference.
Please, I'm gonna write that.
Okay?
Hold on.
If it's a non-discretionary trust, then you cannot exercise that power.
Okay, don't keep talking.
Yeah,
So that's all.
Come, we gotta
that's
write
what it
that?
is, the discretionary trust. That's
Yes, makes the difference.
Hold on.
Okay?
The trust, say that again, please, I want you to write that. I see you
The
in
trust
number.
itself is the express written document which guides the decision of the trustee.
The trust is simple.
Is the expressed written document
That guy.
that guides the activity or behavior of the trustee.
It's in the
The-
case of-
However, the power placed in a trust, the power placed in a trust may extend beyond the terms of the trust.
I got you.
As in the case of a non-discretionary trust. May extend beyond the trust instrument, as in the case of a non-discretionary trust. Okay. And this is what Lord Hogdog was saying. Look, I know you guys are saying that this trust does not cover enough beneficiaries, so to speak. But this is not your typical family trust where you have the equitable 50-50 situation so that everybody can feel satisfied and not aggrieved. Because this is an employee of staff, blah, blah, blah. And let us not forget, yes, we have a trust instrument, we also have a trustee with discretion. So the trustee can what? Allocate these assets as he sees fit. Unless the courts feel that in his discretion he was totally unfair and inequitable.
Yeah,
And the court did not feel that way.
Yeah, but you said have to be, what the word is, impartial.
Of course.
You could use his discretion, but he better be careful.
Fair in his discretion. And that's why even with a non-discretionary trust, if beneficiaries feel you're being unfair, they'll sue. And sometimes if the courts agree with the beneficiary that you're being unfair in your discretion, then they will overrule you in your discretion. You understand that? That's how it works. In other words, even though non-discretionary trusts give you the right to do as you feel, you can do what is deemed to be unfair. How about that? The right to do as you feel is not the same as the right to do what is unfair. My. Very interesting distinction.
So can it get confusing? Can it get confusing for a discretionary trust to
Discretionary?
when
Yes.
it comes to the certainty of objects?
Yeah.
Because here in this case, he says to the company and for his employers and ex-employers. So the beneficiaries
and dependents and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, so, the beneficiaries can be determined, because I remember, we could get the names of all the employees and ex-employees and so forth. But I'm just thinking, we could use this discretion, never mind.
Yeah, discretion is once you have that discretion, again, you can do as you think you need to do, but you cannot do so much that you might find folks thinking that you're not being fair in what you do. Because once the issue of fairness comes into play, because some people have discretion, say, this is my discretion. You don't like it, lump it. And that's fine for issues that are not under a trust. But if you have a trust and the beneficiary feels that in your discretion you're not being fair, they can challenge you. Remember, you can challenge anything. And again, as we see in Lord John Hogdog's case, he said the court has the power to overrule. So if they make a case against your discretion can be overruled, even though you have that discretion. And as a matter of fact, the courts might even give you a tongue lashing at the end if they don't agree with your discretion as being fair. They might say, Mr. Trustee, we see you have the discretion, but in our discretion, your discretion is not too far. Stop that. We rule in favor of the beneficiaries this time. Don't come back with this kind of discretion again. Well, not don't come back, but be careful.
These charitable trusts can be tricky.
Always. Any trust, charitable or non-charitable. But yes, because some charitable trusts, the trusts are not being used for the intended purpose. And unless somebody spills the beans, trustees of charitable trusts get away with all kinds of garbage. A lot of times folks establish charitable trusts, not necessarily because they're going to any charitable purpose at all. Did you know that?
Yeah, for themselves.
And nobody knows until what? Somebody blows the whistle or something happens. And then we discover that suddenly this charitable trust is not a charitable trust at all. This is a trust that was established to send money to terrorists. Did you know that? Why would they call it charitable? So that nobody would suspect. That's why the best liars in the world are well dressed. Do you see, like, a lot of crooked people don't come to you all disheveled, do they?
No.
Like, look at them, oh yeah. No. When people want to gyp you out of something, they come well dressed. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
For a reason. Yeah, chic and avant-garde. It's a girl, she doesn't come out of here like she just got up, she fixes it. So if she wants to gyp you out of something, she fixes it.
Like so much just.
Yeah, and if it's a dude, he don't come to you with no pants hanging down, does he? When he goes to a girl, no. That dude comes flicking, borrow his friend's Corvette, rent it, whatever. Because he wants to give the impression that he is the picture of success. So you could take your money and give it to him or her. My. All right. So there you have your distinction. Okay? Very interesting case. Because that case brings up some interesting things outside of the distinction, like certainty of objects, like how far do you extend the beneficiaries in a discretionary situation. Do you follow? And so these are the kinds of things for those of you who work for, anybody works for a trust company here? Okay. Well,
I work for a trust company, just started.
But so you'll see, and the rest of you eventually when you get there, you'll see that while you're busy pushing paper, further up the line, this is the crap that's going on. But you don't see this stuff. This happens way up the ladder with the firm's attorney and the trustee and the delegates and all these kinds of people. The outsourced services, the beneficiaries, way up there. While the rest of us are like, oh, this thing is so tired, this was waking me so hard pushing all this paper. But all this paper is swirling around these kinds of
I
problems.
see you reading.
For,
Learning.
are you reading stuff? Yes.
You know, when you had these names in the news, and then you see names, like, oh my God.
Yes. Don't worry, the rest of you aren't there yet. You'll see what your names in due season. Say, damn, we talking about that in class that time. That's exactly what we're talking about. All right. What is that again? Chantel, start with you again. Can you begin under trust law?
Under trust law, a trustee is mandated to exercise his powers to distribute trust property in accordance with the provisions of the trust instrument.
True or false? I just throw that out in case you get a true or false question. Because that could sound true or false if you're not careful. That is true. Okay.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
As a corollary.
Corollary. Anybody ever heard that word before? Corollary? What do you think corollary means? Zephaniah said bridge.
You say as a corollary of this principle.
There you go. She's doing it. She's doing it. That's what I was hoping. Google it. Doggone
I
it.
Google it every day.
That's right. Nothing wrong with that. Phones are for more than talking now. Anybody else can suggest what corollary while she's looking it up? As a corollary of this principle.
A corollary
Okay,
is
connection.
a proposition that follows from one already proven.
So do we agree with this word based on that definition? It follows from something that's already proven? As a corollary, what principle is this? Which principle are we talking about that is a corollary?
The trustee is mandated to exercise.
Absolutely, that is the principle. And the corollary, by extension, is also true. Okay, that's what we mean. Alright, so whatever comes after is based on that principle. Okay, keep going.
As a corollary.
Mm-hmm. New word, new word.
Yes.
So when you go to next staff meetings, look, as a corollary of the situation that went on. They said, you can't afford to pay for nobody to go to school and start confusing
I'm
you.
not speaking language.
As a corollary.
Or they might use it and think you don't know. They say, John, this is a corollary to the other matter with them. They think you don't know, you don't say
Yeah.
nothing.
If I
They think I don't flicking know.
If I ask a question and they try to, I say, okay, you don't have to do all of that.
Correct.
I got it.
That's what information does. That's what getting up in the morning when you're tired. I don't feel like that's what it does, okay? Okay, keep going.
As a corollary of this principle, the discretion to exercise such powers must be done honestly,
Excuse me? Uh-huh.
fairly,
Uh-huh.
and in good faith.
Again, notice all through, everywhere you turn, you keep running into fiduciary, honesty, fairly, and good faith. No matter how brilliant we are, no matter how informed we are, we still, our foundation as a trustee must be those things. My. I don't care how many degrees you get, how hard you work, and how long you work. That is the foundation. Wow. How about that? Okay, keep going.
The trustee must always keep in mind the goals of the trustee, which are primarily to protect and preserve trust property on behalf of the beneficiaries.
Thank you very much. I don't need to say anything more about that. And as a matter of fact, we would have far less lawsuits, arguments, fights, and disagreements if only we would follow that corollary to the basic principle. All right, read the next paragraph as well. Once
the trustee acts in good faith in exercising his powers of discretion regarding the distribution of trust property.
See, going back to this thing with Lord Hogdall, the trustee might have discretion, but that discretion must be exercised always in good faith. You cannot do it in bad faith. Do you follow? You cannot only distribute stuff to people you like, or give them more because you like them, or they tip you, or whatever case, they auntie, sister, uncle, child. You cannot do that. That's bad faith. That's being what? Partial. You have to be impartial and operate in good faith to the benefit of all. Within reason. Because Lord Hogdall is saying, you're saying that this doesn't extend long enough, but from what I can see, this goes far enough. How much further do you expect this thing to go? It was done in good faith. Okay.
Distribution of trust property. He will be protected by law, particularly if he has done so according to the terms of the trust instrument and as permitted by law.
All right, so now we see the general sequence. Act in good faith. Okay? Follow the trust instrument and follow the law.
So, I think I read a case where, I don't know, the trustee was being challenged. I don't know whether it was by the settlor or the beneficiaries, but when it got to the courts, they saw that the trustee did in his
Discretion?
capacity or, yeah, in his discretion that he did act in good faith.
Yes.
Even though the results were not favorable.
Correct?
And so the court awarded the trustee,
Yeah, the
I mean,
benefit.
the judgment was in
Favor of the trustee, absolutely. And that's a very important point that if you haven't seen it yet, well, we've suggested it now, and you'll see it again. Even though as a trustee, you might not get the desired result, once it can be proven that you acted in good faith, then you will be given the benefit of a doubt. Very important, okay? So if you directed the investment officers to make a particular decision in good faith, and the market fell unexpectedly, somebody assassinated Donald Trump or some crap like that. Poor Donald. Then you acted in good faith, you could just not foresee what? That somebody would shoot off Donald's toupee. Is that toupee or that's his hair? I'm just playing the devil's advocate. Donald is my boy. Anybody who knows why I might say Donald's my boy? Alright, I
He's
don't know.
sarcastic like you.
He's sarcastic.
You're not as bad as Donald though.
Yeah,
Nobody is.
he good, he good.
This is right for me.
Zephaniah, what do you think about Donald Trump? Since you're a dude.
Donald.
Yeah, Donald.
Uh-huh.
What do you think now? Not mama, not the herd. You.
Unique character,
He doesn't have character.
unique.
Oh, unique character, yes.
I can see, well, from what I feel, I don't feel that he's trustworthy.
You think he's a liar?
Yeah.
You think
But
Barack is trustworthy?
But it comes down
Hillary.
to his,
None is trustworthy.
when it comes down
Oh,
to
let's
his
he's
declaring,
yeah.
declaring all the taxes and.
Oh, you mean
that, so-
but he hasn't declared his taxes yet.
Yeah, I just feel like it's something more going on.
I know, but should we read that something's more until he declares?
He rich. So,
I get your point. It leaves you feeling suspicious.
it's not fair.
Yeah.
It's good time. It's all a lie.
But we have local guys who haven't declared anything either.
True.
And some declared and they declared a lie. What they declare is not true. But we're not pursuing the fact that what they declare is not true. Because some of those assets that they declared in the Bahamas are not true. There's more than they declared. But we're not pursuing that either. You say they declared, shut up, leave it. But your point is taken. He doesn't declare it, so you feel suspicious. But all those guys are like that.
We're not trustworthy.
Hillary hasn't said anything about all those things, those emails either. What happened now? Yeah, everybody have their little thing going on. Politicians.
Obama too, he just smart.
Yeah, he is. He's not a boy scout, he's just.
He black, he know how to do it. Discreet.
But that's a good point. Alright. Now notice, despite what Chantel said with all that good stuff, the trustee can indemnify himself if he wants to. In the Bahamas, the Trustee Act gives the trustee the power to what? Insure itself themselves and their employee against what?
Personal liability.
Why would they need that?
In case they're being sued,
By whom?
the beneficiary.
Or anybody else for that matter?
Is that the fidelity, that word that she used?
Fidelity bond.
The fidelity one?
Yeah, that's one form of protection. It's not the only form. You can buy indemnity insurance of many kinds from anywhere where they provide it. And it's just, and if, because you are allowed to do that under the Trustee Act in the Bahamas and some other jurisdictions too, you can actually use trust funds to insure you and your employees. How about that? Okay? Usually you would think that if you want to buy indemnity insurance, you pay for it yourself out of your own money. But in this case, the law allows for the trust fund to pay for cover against what? Any litigious acts. However, there is an exception. You can insure yourself potentially against anything except,
Breach of trust.
wow. When would you normally, as a trustee, breach your trust?
Anything against what's stated in the trust.
Yeah, anything you do that falls outside of the trust agreement or the law. Does everybody follow that? Then you are in breach, and your indemnity will not help you. Anything that you're accused of when you're in breach, you will have to pay for yourself. But anything other than that, that liability insurance which the trust fund pays will cover you. But you will not be covered against your own what? Indiscretions and crookedness. That's really what we're saying. Trustees. Alright. Also notice we're told that in sections 14 to 29 of the Trustee Act of the Bahamas, did anybody look at that at all?
Got it?
The Trustee Act of the Bahamas, 1988.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if you don't read the whole thing right away, those sections as you read, you should look at them. They confer additional powers to trustees. And these powers may be what? Restricted or increased by the provisions of the? By all means. Okay. My. Trustees must ensure that the instrument provides what? Sufficiently. You see that almost at the end? For his powers so that he is able to?
Discharge his duties and responsibilities.
Absolutely. So in other words, don't accept the trust instrument from a set law that is going to so restrict you that you cannot carry out your functions in this way.
See why the trustee have to be skilled?
Why?
Because then he will know what he.
Absolutely.
If he don't know.
You cannot be a dimwit and be a trustee. And even if you're a dimwit, you should be smart enough to get what? Advice from the proper sources. Okay? By all means. Speaking about Donald, a lot of people have forgotten that some of the things that Donald do, he does not do them on an individual basis. He does have advisors. And every time he opens his mouth or tweets, he's not necessarily shooting from the cuff. Chances are he has spoken with somebody who advises him. And then he decides to present it how he wants to present it.
His personality, I think he could go up the top of his head.
Sometimes. And sometimes you have to.
He looks biggity enough.
So, Jeff and I, if you speak your opinion firmly, like Dr. What's his name, who was in the last parliament? Anyone remember him? In our parliament. Who spoke his mind. No, not Leslie Miller. Doctor, the dentist. What's his name again? Rollins. Who spoke his mind and said the teething that goes on in the thing must stop. So what's wrong with that? If you teething, yeah? Yeah. But they didn't like him because of how he said it. They wanted him to say, Mr. Speaker, I am so dismayed to have to present to the Parliament today. See? Listen, that it distresses me to have to say.
No, that doesn't get.
No, that there's, but that's what they want you to say, so you can be a good boy. That there's some stealing, some indiscretions, Mr. Speaker, emanating from certain government ministries. Yeah. But they don't want to do this. Mr. Speaker, I know for a fact people teeth it. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Common law.
But because he said that, they said that he's a rude boy.
Loose cannon.
But he's not a loose cannon at all. Tiefin is.
Tiefin.
The real cannons are the ones who he is talking about. Because they Tiefin yellow millions. Isn't it? Hello?
Yeah.
So Rollins is not the real problem. But as usual, we said, you. He's not the problem. He's pulling teeth now.
Yeah, putting on those braids.
Yeah. All right. My point is, sometimes to get results, you have to be what? Out of character. Because if you maintain the status quo, you will not get results. Okay? Yeah. It's just like in my home. Usually, I'm very calm and quiet. Yeah. I know it doesn't seem that way in here. But this for trustee stuff. But usually I'm calm and quiet at home. Alright? So my kids and my wife, everybody knows my schedule. They tell me what I'm going to buy every week, how I'm going to eat it, where I'm going to put it on my plate, because I'm very what? Methodical. I do things basically the same way all the time. So I'm predictable as far as they're concerned. So every now and then, yeah, when I walk in, I have to like, Daddy, what happened? Nothing. I'm not mad. It's just like every blue moon I have to do that so like they don't get too. I sit down with a serious face. My wife says, "Sweetie, what happened?" I'm like, "Nothing. Why?" So you look so serious. I said, "Really? Be serious sometime." Otherwise, folks won't take you seriously.
Keep them on their toes.
Yes, absolutely. And so that's all, what people are trying. Okay. So, the key is that in the Bahamas, the instrument is the guiding factor followed by the law, as it is in so many other jurisdictions. More specifically, we're told, trustees have what? Full powers of whom?
Individual beneficial owner.
My. What are they trying to tell us in this paragraph? Anybody read that? They just I'm not reading that.
Yeah.
What is that saying? That little simple paragraph that we threw in there. Is that of any consequence?
No, it says that the trustee has, full powers. Okay, when it comes to real property, they could borrow funds.
Yeah, the trustee, like the beneficiary with full powers over real property, can borrow. Can they borrow for themselves personally?
No.
No. But they can borrow on behalf of the trust fund. The trustee can use the assets that are in their possession to borrow on behalf of the trust fund. They might decide to borrow some money to make an investment to enhance the position of the trust.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out in what example
Ah,
what they borrow for.
they might decide, for example,
Can
that
can they use the assets as collateral?
sure, if they are acting in good faith and not taking any what? Unnecessary risks. They don't play around with trust assets using as collateral for your auntie, cousin, business bestest, friendest, somewhere in the United Emirates, some nonsense. See what I mean? Don't play around with the trust assets as if it's your own. If you're going to use it as collateral, you better know that it's being used as collateral that will potentially be in good faith for a substantive return for that fund. If there's any risk that is really outside of the norm, you should avoid that transaction because that's not acting in good faith. But if the risk is reasonable, sure, you can do that. If the trustee needs to borrow the trust fund needs to borrow $10 million to make an investment that can bring a return of $100 million, and that's within reason, you should do that. And that may be one of the cases, of course, where you call a meeting of the home beneficiaries and said, look, we're thinking about borrowing $10 million to invest in because we expect the return to be blah, blah, blah. And the beneficiaries will say, great. So even if it fails, what happens? You will get far less flack than if you go ahead and do it without consulting beneficiaries and it fails. But doesn't mean you can't do it if you have discretion to do it or the right to do it. You can. Remember, even if it's not, you don't get the required return, once the court determines that it was done in, see, good faith.
And the Trust Act provides that power too.
Absolutely. But the real key is this: good faith, whatever you do. Okay, Zephaniah, so one day when you commit adultery, do it in good faith. I'm just being the devil's advocate. Don't mess with that crap. Don't mind me trying to throw it out to change the mood a minute. Don't. There's no such thing. That's the whole point.
Exactly.
Which is what a lot of comedy is about, by the way. When you go to watch a comedy, while you're smiling, if you really think about the underpinnings of what it means just the opposite of what we're smiling about. Or we're smiling because we get that it means exactly what it means. Don't freaking do it. Or whatever the case might be. Because Zephaniah is a youngster. He hasn't seen anything crap yet. He thinks so. Did I tell you guys I have a baby who's 19? My baby's 19 now.
You're an adult.
Thinks he is a man.
Yes.
Even though biologically he's a man. Legally he's a man. See, it's like the trust thing. Biologically and legally he's a what?
Legally
Man.
and
But
emotionally.
financially he's a what? Flick dependent. On who?
You.
Still. So he like this now. This me. That's this him. Okay. So yeah, the trustee can go ahead and do these things as long as he does things in good faith. All right. Interesting enough, even though this biological, independent, financially dependent person called my baby, I gave him some instructions the other day about something. He sent me a long soliloquy. He's a man now, and he's using the education that who gave him to write me, Dad. I realized
You better keep
and he's using my own language against me too. He's been listening to me for years and now he's trying to talk to me. Dad, I realize that you have a concern about certain matters. However,
XYZ.
of course, I'm proud and what? Dismayed at the same. What the hell? Don't send me a soliloquy. But on the other hand, I'm happy to see that all that money I spent to send him to school, was not a waste. He can actually construct a flicking sentence.
Hold on now, wait.
On page 41.
Like where you going with this?
Sometimes she's my baby. Don't mind me. Okay, page 41 at the bottom. Now notice that paragraph that begins with a trustee's power. See, we're still talking about power, you know. Notice we have more power issues than what? Duties. Wow. Duty is one thing, but power is a whole different ball game. Wow, just like any other relationship, duty is one thing, but power is a whole different ball game. Duty to the country is one thing, but power in executing those duties, wow. As we've seen all across countries, we tend to egg it right up with power. All right, a trustee's power of discretion may be used in many ways. See that? To protect whom? A beneficiary, including to withhold what? Income payments to a beneficiary and may be claimed by the. Yeah, in other words, if you have a beneficiary who has a creditor running them down because the beneficiary is irresponsible not paying their debts, you're sending the beneficiary income every year according to the trust fund or according to your discretion. And this trustee, this beneficiary, has a creditor who's now calling you because the beneficiary is not paying. And the beneficiary still doesn't pay. They want you to use your discretion to maybe pay some money out to the creditor out of the fund when you've in fact already given the beneficiary their income for the year or the month, which they should have used to do what? Pay the creditor. Do you follow?
Yeah.
So the trustee might say, look, John, I know you and I are pals. As you know, you're a beneficiary and we're pals. We've been great friends over the years, and you've tipped me a few times. However, when you get your income from the income of this trust, I suggest you pay your bills first. Trustee can probably help by doing that. Maybe try to educate the beneficiary. But some beneficiaries are not easy to educate. Do you know that?
Yep.
Especially if they know that tons and tons of money is sitting in the trust fund.
Oh, especially when they have a bunch of bad habits.
Especially. That's why certain trust instruments do not allow the trustee any discretion or limited discretion. Because sometimes you have beneficiaries who have bad habits. And if the trustee has total discretion, they might be the buddy of the beneficiary who is wasting money. How about that? And therefore, in his discretion, he's giving this beneficiary far more than he should be. Very tricky situation. All right, trustee may also make distributions to the beneficiary under certain conditions in order to,
Protect the trust property from being
which is what she said earlier. What do you think dissipated mean?
Overindulgent.
Yeah, or reduced indiscriminately. So if you have a beneficiary who wastes and burns money and you keep giving, you are dragging down on the trust fund that is there for the benefit of other beneficiaries as well, in the interest of one. So you have these powers, but we see already that these powers need to be clearly exercised with discretion, in good faith, and for the interest of all. My. Okay, Zephaniah, can you read the next paragraph, beginning with trustee?
Trustee minutes are often used to document reasons and discussions made by a trust committee for professional trustees' discretion in the exercise of discretionary powers.
Stick a pin for a minute. What does that mean in English, anybody?
Well, I know these are fiduciary meetings where they come together and discuss what they need when it comes to distributions and so forth, so
What does distributions mean?
payout.
Yeah, payouts. I know it sounds simple for somebody like who's in a distribution environment, but for other people, is it distribution? Like somebody who's not in that environment, yeah? Is it distribution? What are they giving out? No, distributions are payout from the trust fund to whom? Beneficiaries. As a matter of fact, that is a major part of what trustees do from day to day. Determine who should get distributions, how much, and why. In addition to how we get money into the trust fund from investments, how we can increase the invest, and so on. So on the one hand, you have meetings to discuss what? Distributions. On the other hand, you have meetings to discuss what? Investments, and so on. You have other meetings to discuss what? Legal issues, and all kinds of stuff. Then another meeting to discuss who should get increases, who left the company, who to hire, and who to fire. So all these things are going on. So in this case, we're talking about the minutes for distribution. Why do you think a trustee should keep minutes?
Because they need to know what they've been paying out. If they have to refer back to it, they could say, well, you just got so and so.
Yeah, especially if a beneficiary starts to question your discretion. The whole idea behind that information is to log a record as to why you made the distribution.
Right.
So we made a distribution of 10 million to the drunk, so you can drink it out. That's what's in your minutes. All right, but the minutes are designed for the trustees' purposes only. Usually these minutes are not available to the beneficiaries.
But they can request them.
They can. Oftentimes the trustee will resist. And the trustee will resist until it gets to the courts. And the trustee will resist until the courts give them the order to disclose it. Sometimes the courts would, sometimes they won't. Okay? So we have to be very careful. But these minutes are very important because they're designed to protect the trustee as well. In the event of any legal action, the trustee can go back what? A month, a year, 5 years or 10 years, and still say, here's the reason why I made that decision. Without those minutes, is he going to remember?
No.
No. Okay, so it's very important.
The minutes are protected.
Yes, normally. Minutes are normally protected. Why do I say normally?
I don't know why you say normally, because the trust says that the Trust Act protects the
Yeah.
disclosure from the.
Until what?
The court say.
Until the courts say, yes, pursuant to the Trustee Act of 1988, the minutes are protected. However, in this case, we have discovered that there was a fraudulent flicking intent, and therefore, that overrides any protection. How about that? See what I mean? So yeah, there's always a twist somewhere. And I'm just throwing it out just for your information so you don't get stuck. Well, you know what I mean. Because we already know that no matter what the act says, no matter what common law says, that at the end of the day, if the courts rule otherwise, and the courts might see something more that goes ultra vires the situation or beyond what we think we see. Because you notice how Lord Hogg Dog gives their description. They don't give any one sentence description. They write all kinds of crap, don't they? Pursuant to this and pursuant to that. And in our opinion, and despite the fact that the certainty appears to be certainty regarding the certainty of the other certainties, by the time they finish, you're further confused. And by the time, in your confusion, by the time you try to figure it out, you reach the end. And therefore, we conclude,
Explanations could be like 2 hours.
yeah, that we rule in favor of. So everybody leaves like dizzy, including the lawyers. What the hell is that, man? They send the bill and go home.
That happened to us in jury.
And well,
Jury.
of course,
Somebody-
jurists are confronted with that all the time.
I was sitting down listening to the.
Yeah, and for the most part, the jurors like whatever. And they wait for something familiar, like kill. And they wait for something, after all that stuff confusing, they wait for something else. Throw in the lake. Then they want, what? Like stuff that is familiar. Because all that other stuff, like, man, please.
No interest.
No, nor do we understand it. At all.
And we've already made our decision.
Yeah, and furthermore, some people have decided already. They walk in already. Mr. Jones did it. That's it. So anything else is redundant.
Yeah, 2.5 hours sitting out there.
Yeah, so when it's lunchtime, because their mind's already made up, some of them. They're not interested in the evidence. That time, they're presenting hard evidence. We saw the Hamas strike. That time, so he's guilty. They tried to kill Mr. Jones. They don't care. Mr. Jones killed. That's all they know. The hell with it if it's self-defense. He's guilty. She's very right about that. And that's the problem when you end up in what? A court of law. If you can settle something out of court or avoid it altogether, God forbid, that's usually the best route. Okay. All right, keep going.
So these minutes are protected from disclosure under the Trustee Act 1998, as they are not considered trust property subject to the beneficiary's right to information.
See? And therein lies the issue. They are not considered. They are protected. And all of that is good until it hits some judge desk. And the judge might rule in favor of the act. Excuse me, Mr. Beneficiary, I'm sorry, but these minutes are protected. Or when he reads the minutes, he's like, what the hell? Really now, John? Chambers, please. John, come on, man. This is a case of defrauding. I got a rule against you, John. You are. Yeah, let's go, guys. That's it. See what I mean? Simple as that. Okay, keep going.
With regard to the delegation of trustee powers, the general principle is that the trustee cannot delegate his power as to whom and to what extent trust property may be distributed.
Excuse me, he cannot do it? Good exam question, true or false? A trustee can delegate his power, true or false?
Hold on.
You know what this power?
Yeah.
False.
False. I like that, just that's how you think about it. You cannot delegate, means you hear that. Trustee can you cannot delegate. Okay? Those powers regarding to whom and to what extent those people may be, you cannot. However, keep going up.
However, a trustee may delegate certain duties and tasks in the administration of trust that may contribute to the exercise of trustees' powers in the distribution of trust property.
Thank you very much. So you cannot delegate what? The power, but you can delegate an administrative function. Yeah, a duty or a function, which is administrative in nature, but not the power itself. Not the power itself. Okay, way to go. Okay, thanks, Zeph. Sharika. Where's Sharika? Oh yeah, she's hiding behind.
A trustee's power or discretion must be a positive mental act and must not result from his omission or inaction.
Now this is interesting, folks. I know it's easy to just like move on. Oh yeah, I'm fine with the hell. Okay, but this power or discretion. Why do you think we say power or discretion?
Because he only has the power within the trust instrument.
Power would be within the instrument, discretion would be ultra vires the instrument, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody clear on that? Because that could get tricky if you're not clear. Okay, okay.
I have to remember the word. Fully doesn't have full power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Additionally, trusts are not compelled to give reasons for the decisions, particularly to the beneficiaries.
Say they're not compelled according to what? Law that we just spoke about. They're not compelled according to the Trustee Act of 1988. Nor are they compelled according to common law. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
A trustee must take particular care that his powers are exercised honestly.
There we go again. It keeps coming up. I wonder, they don't have any other word to use? Can't they find another synonym? It doesn't matter what synonym means. You're still on it? Yes. Absolutely. Because trust me, there are so many dishonest trustees. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know.
Yes, there
Yeah, I
are.
would think so.
I know. They all appear to be honest. Okay? All politicians appear to be honest too until something blows. Okay, Mr. Speaker, I'm here to make sure that you understand that I'm here for nothing less than integrity. Doesn't that sound good? Until something blows that Dr. Rollins is arrested for thieving. They say, Mother Super, this guy laughing, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Otherwise, any dishonest or improper exercise of his powers will invalidate it and any distribution made to the beneficiaries, depending upon the facts in every case.
Now let's stick a pin there. You have the discretion, but you're expected to act honestly as a trustee. Any decision you make about a distribution, what is a distribution again? Payment of money normally to beneficiaries, or any other decision that you take. If it is found that you acted dishonestly, it will invalidate any decision you take. In other words, if you acted inappropriately in distributing $1 million to a beneficiary, then you have what? Weakened the trust. And if the law finds that you have acted dishonestly, what will happen? You will have to reimburse the trust fund. Do you follow that, folks? Because you can't go to the beneficiary, give me the money back. I don't see money spend, that's guy like getting money back. Are you kidding me? That means the trustee will have to pay it out of his own money. Does the trustee have money?
His own money?
Yeah. The trustee, the professional trustee. Sure, professional trustees, they have trust funds that are worth millions and billions of dollars. And every year they get what? Trustee fees of millions of dollars every year. So they have their own money. Because they have their own money, that don't mean they want to pay it out though. For that. But if they're found to be acting what? Dishonestly, then whatever decisions they made will be invalidated and they will have to cover whatever costs, including legal costs. See how that works? Alright, okay, keep going.
Equally important is the fact that trustees must exercise their discretion within a reasonable time, which again depends upon the facts of every case.
Yeah, what is reasonable? Boy, reasonable is a funny word, and depending on every case. How do trustees mitigate against that? What is reasonable? Do it quickly, and what is determined to be reasonable within the circumstances for that situation at the time. You follow? So if you need to make an investment, find out what is a reasonable time to make an investment and do it then. So that if something comes up, you can say to the court, this is the standard, and we follow the standard. So you have a basis. But if the standard is 3 days, and you came rolling around doing it in the 17th day, you have no defense. That is not reasonable. Okay? All right.
Other circumstances regarding the time and type of the exercise of the power of discretion may determine whether it will be validated or not.
In other words, then, even though the trustee has these powers, power of the instrument, power of discretion, power, depending on how he acts, when he acts, in whose faith he acts, in whose favor he acts, and all this stuff. Whatever he does may or may not be validated by the courts if an action is taken against the trustees by whomever. Do you follow that, folks? So as a trustee, you have to know what standard practices are for all of these duties and powers. Do you follow me? And try to be guided accordingly. The reason for that is this is the foundation of doing the job. And the reason why we have a foundation, because like anything else, people act ultra-virus. Not all trustees are acting honestly. Not all trustees are preserving the trust. Not all trustees are following the trust instrument. Did you know that? Some trustees know the instrument doesn't provide for it, and they still do it, thinking that they won't get. Did you know that? Zeph just says, man, you know what he's saying. If I do it once, you know what you know. Trustees do that too. The problem is, if you get away the first time, what tends to happen?
You continue to.
Yes, it must sick. Nobody see that? Like, man, look here. I'm the bomb. So you try it again. The only problem is, there's an old saying that the more you get away with something, the closer you are to. Oh, you guys know that one? Okay, last but not least, Miss Janelle. Okay, Janelle, close us out then, beginning with the exercise.
The exercise of a trustee's discretion must be done fairly and independently.
See, here we go again. Fairly. But what about independently? Why that? Why not dependently? Why does the trustee have to be acting independently? What does that mean?
He cannot ask other persons to make decisions on his behalf.
No, you can't, you know that. But what does independent mean? Who's an independent auditor? Keep going.
Who's an independent order?
Who's an independent auditor?
Man who's.
By definition. Usually not a part of the organization that they're doing the audit for, but it goes a little further than that. Independent means you cannot be influenced by the persons in the organization that you are auditing. So if the CEO comes to you and say, turn the other way and I'll give you an extra 15 million as an independent auditor, you have to decline it. And then report that bastard. The hell with you, I don't need a 15. The hell with you. I don't need any 15 million. Now we know that some independent auditors are going to say the hell with you and report it. And other independent auditors are going to what? Man, John, where your office at?
I ain't even coming. I can write you up right now.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna.
I ain't going that far, I'm gonna ask for 2 files and sit there for an hour and then leave.
Yes. Fan around for an hour or two and then leave. With the money in an account in the Cayman.
Operations has put certain files different places.
This crap is real. So this thing about the trustee being independent is absolutely crucial. For the trustee, this means that no beneficiary, male or female, mini dressed or well dressed, should be able to influence the trustee. No protector, no settler, no nothing. How's that? How have you spell that?
He influences himself.
Including him.
He influences himself.
He must be completely independent in his decision and not influenced by any external sources. Okay, Janelle? Alright, let it rip.
And a trustee must not be seen as a nominee of the settlement.
Excuse me, what does that mean, nominee? Anybody looked at that word nominee? Nominee is usually a company. What is the purpose of a nominee?
I don't know, a friend of yours.
Sort of, but it's a company that acts on your behalf.
Yeah.
It's not you. It is you, but it's not you. So if a nominee company is representing you, instead of your name showing up as doing it, the name of the nominee company. Okay? Janelle and Co. did it. But really, who's behind Janelle and Co. in the company? You, Janelle. Because she's the majority shareholder. But she's not me, the company did it. So the nominee is a company. Alright? So the trustee must not be seen as a what? Nominee of the settler. In other words, the trustee must not be seen as the settler's puppet. Just the settler actually running the trust. That happens a lot. That's why sometimes some trusts come under fire as being shams. Because beneficiaries and other people would say, wait a minute, this trustee is not running this bloody trust. From everything we can see, the settlor is running this trust. And that's never the intention of a what? Trust. Alright, keep going.
Should the trustee act solely and exclusively by the instructions of the settler and not act independently, the trust may be declared a sham.
A sham. Good exam question. Be careful with that question. So the trustee is not acting independently, and the settlor is pulling the strings, meaning making the decisions for the trustee and directing the trustee as to what to do. Then that trust may deem to be a sham, and the courts might shut it down or find a new trustee. Okay.
A sham in many offshore jurisdictions, particularly in the instances where revocable trust.
What is a revocable trust, folks?
A trust that can be revoked.
Meaning?
It could be terminated.
Yeah, the settler can set up a revocable trust where at a certain time in the future or at any time he feels like it, he can terminate the trust without referring to any other source. Okay, that's revocable. What about irrevocable?
He cannot.
Yeah, he cannot shut it down. Once he set it up, that's it.
It cannot be revoked.
Okay? Anything after that would have to be done through beneficiaries, the courts, the trustee, and so on. But the settler would be out of the picture completely. Okay? So you can see a revocable trust could easily be a trust that is controlled effectively by the settlor. they're not a good idea, and unless you can come up with a what? Substantive reason for having one. Not that you can't do one, but you have to have a good reason for setting up a revocable trust. And it cannot be that because you want to control it. Because if you want to control it, then that means you probably don't even need a trust in the first place.
So
Okay?
that's the other reason.
Avoid taxes, have your money in the trust fund, and if the jurisdiction doesn't allow for taxing trusts, then they would override that part of your income. You only have the money that you want a trust to be taxed in your personal account, the rest of it you transfer it to a company in a trust. So a lot of reasons why. That's why the developed countries are now under CRS, common reporting and so on, are asking that everything be reported, trust included, because they want to know where people are hiding money, including what trust funds are they hiding it in as well. So that they need to tax it, they can. My. Okay, keep going.
Revocable trust exists and the settler very wide,
And give.
and give the settler very wide powers to control and dictate the trustees and the trust.
Okay? Anytime you see a situation where the settler is controlling the trustees and the trust, that means that that trust is probably a sham and it's not being operated in good faith. I'm not saying that every single time, but for the most part, that kind of settler intrusion and control is never a good idea for a typical well-run trust. Okay, folks? That's something to keep in mind. All right, so we're going to stop there for today. When we come next week, we will complete the two remaining sectors, which are 7 and 8, not too long, so it shouldn't be too tedious for you to read through it. All right, so have a great week, and I shall see you guys next week, Saturday, same time, same trust channel.
Very short. So short.
Indeed.
Oh, today was good.
Thank you very much, and make sure you guys enjoy the rest of it.
Today? Oh, yes, definitely.
I'm going to give you a handout for you to read. We'll talk about it a little bit next week. Estate planning. Anybody here a part of a blended family? Who's a blended family?
A husband and wife marry another person, then a husband have children, and marry somebody.
Who may or may not have children. Usually both parties have children.
Have children.
Yes. So blended families can be tricky.
So that be me.
There you go. There you go.
My
Yeah.
husband has one before marriage and I have one before marriage.
Oh, mother's sick. I'm not saying that's it. I'm just.
And then
A lot-
then
there are
we
men-
have, then we have one in the marriage, and the one in the marriage, she's getting everything.
Mother's sick. What about the other two though?
They get something, but they ain't getting with the one, whatever we accomplish together, the one in the marriage
They
gets
ain't
back.
like, oh.
Boy, let me.
Yeah.
You will enjoy that for sure. As will the rest of you, who might end up in a blended situation. Blended marriages are unique and they are on the increase.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so have fun reading that. We'll chit chat about it next week. My.
Good day, everyone.
Okay, take care. Take care.
Saturday.
Thank you, you too.
Can you see my card?
Take care. See you next week.
Yeah.
Okay, take care.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.